Take a deep breath with me. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts, hold it gently for 2, and release through your mouth for 6. One more time. In through the nose, and out, letting your shoulders drop as you exhale. Good. Now, picture someone you know who seems naturally confident in social situations. Maybe it's a colleague who effortlessly strikes up conversations, a friend who can walk into any room and make people laugh, or that neighbor who knows everyone's name. When you watch them, it looks easy, doesn't it? Almost like they were born with some magical social gene that you somehow missed out on. Here's what I need you to understand right from the start: that's not how it works. What you're seeing isn't a personality trait they were blessed with at birth. What you're witnessing is a skill they've developed through repeated practice and experience. And here's the beautiful truth. If socialese is a skill, then it can be learned, practiced, and mastered by anyone, including you. Why some people seem naturally confident? Let me tell you about Marcus. If you met him at a conference today, you'd immediately think, now there's someone who's naturally outgoing. He moves through crowds with ease, initiates conversations without hesitation, maintains steady eye contact, and has this warm energy that makes people want to talk to him. But here's what you don't see. Marcus grew up painfully shy. At 14, he would eat lunch in the bathroom stall to avoid sitting alone in the cafeteria. At 16, he had a panic attack before his first job interview. At 21, he turned down a promotion because it required leading team meetings. So what changed? Did Marcus transform into a different person? No. He made a conscious decision to develop his social skills through deliberate, consistent practice. Early environmental conditioning. Research in developmental psychology shows that much of what we interpret as natural confidence is actually early environmental conditioning. Children who grow up in households where social interaction is modeled positively develop what looks like innate social ease. Think about a child whose parents regularly host dinner parties. That child observes hundreds of hours of social interaction, how conversations start, how people greet each other, how conflicts are navigated, how jokes land. By adulthood, they've internalized thousands of social scripts without realizing it. Compare this to a child raised in isolation, perhaps by parents who themselves struggle socially. That child reaches adulthood with fewer internalized scripts and less practiced confidence. It's not that one child is naturally confident, it's that one has had significantly more training. The crucial insight: what was missed in childhood can be learned in adulthood. The brain remains remarkably plastic throughout our lives. Neural pathways can be formed and strengthened at any age. The reinforcement cycle. Confidence exists in what researchers call a reinforcement cycle. Imagine 2 people at a networking event. Person A had some early positive social experiences, so they approach someone with slight baseline confidence. They make eye contact, smile genuinely, ask an open-ended question. The other person responds positively. Person A feels good, which adds to their confidence. The next conversation becomes easier. Over time, thousands of small reinforcing experiences create what looks like natural confidence. Person B lacked those early experiences. Their anxiety manifests physically: reduced eye contact, closed body language, forced smiles. Others pick up on these signals and respond with less warmth. Person B interprets this as confirmation they're bad at socializing, increasing future anxiety. This negative cycle continues. But Person B isn't fundamentally different from Person A. They're simply stuck in a different cycle. And cycles can be broken and redirected. The attribution error. There's a cognitive bias called the fundamental attribution error. When we observe others' behavior, we attribute it to their personality. When we observe our own, we attribute it to circumstances. You see someone confidently working a room and think, they're naturally outgoing. You struggle and think, this situation makes me anxious, there are too many people, I didn't sleep well. That confident person might be having a good day, might be comfortable with this specific group, might have practiced conversation starters in the car. Your struggle isn't who you fundamentally are, it's your current skill level and circumstances. The biochemistry of confidence. When you enter a social situation feeling anxious, your amygdala perceives a threat. It doesn't distinguish between physical and social threats. Your brain doesn't know the difference between facing a tiger and facing strangers at a conference. The amygdala triggers cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases. Breathing becomes shallow. Blood flow shifts away from your prefrontal cortex, responsible for complex thinking and social cognition, to your muscles, preparing you to fight or flee. This is why anxiety makes you feel physically uncomfortable and mentally foggy. People who appear naturally confident aren't immune to this response. Through repeated exposure, they've trained their nervous system to interpret social situations as less threatening. Their amygdala is less reactive. Their prefrontal cortex remains online, allowing clear thinking and appropriate responses. How? Through habituation. Every time you enter a social situation and survive it, you're teaching your amygdala it isn't life-threatening. Over time, your threat response diminishes. You remain calm enough to think clearly and engage authentically. The spotlight effect. Research shows we dramatically overestimate how much others notice about us. In a Cornell study, participants wearing embarrassing t-shirts estimated 50% of people would notice. Only 23% actually did. We feel like we're under a spotlight, believing everyone is watching and judging. Meanwhile, everyone else feels the same way, too focused on their own anxiety to scrutinize us. That confident person has learned through experience that people aren't scrutinizing them as intensely as feared. They've internalized this reality. They know small social missteps won't be remembered, that momentary awkwardness is quickly forgotten. You can accelerate learning by consciously reminding yourself of the spotlight effect. When you feel self-conscious, pause and ask, is anyone actually paying as much attention as I'm imagining? The truth, social ease is learned. Social ease is not a fixed personality trait, it's a learned skill. This isn't vague motivation, it's concrete, evidence-based reality. Skills versus traits. In psychology, we distinguish between traits and skills. Traits are relatively stable characteristics remaining consistent across situations and time. Skills are learned capabilities that improve with practice. Playing piano is a skill. Speaking Spanish is a skill. Navigating social situations effectively is a skill. This matters because we have limited ability to change fundamental traits but enormous capacity to develop skills, regardless of underlying traits. An introverted person can absolutely learn social skills. They might never crave constant stimulation like extroverts, but they can become highly effective at social interaction when they choose to engage. You don't need to change who you fundamentally are. You simply need to learn and practice learnable skills. The competence progression model. There's a framework describing the journey from social anxiety to social ease, consisting of 4 stages. Stage 1, unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Children are typically here. Stage 2, conscious incompetence. The most uncomfortable stage. You're acutely aware that social situations are challenging. You notice awkward moments, recognize when you've said something off-putting, see others navigate more smoothly, but don't yet know how. This awareness without ability creates significant distress. Being here isn't failure, it's progress. Conscious incompetence is necessary before competence. You can't fix what you can't see. Stage 3, conscious competence. You've learned the skills, but applying them requires deliberate effort. You can start conversations, but must think carefully about opening lines. You can read body language, but must consciously remind yourself. This is where practice happens, building neural pathways. Stage 4, unconscious competence. Skills have become automatic. You walk into situations and appropriate behaviors flow naturally without conscious thought. This is what people perceive as natural confidence. The people you perceive as naturally confident are at stage 4. They've practiced enough that skills became automatic. You can get there too. Real-world evidence. Sarah's story. Sarah worked in accounting with what she called crippling social anxiety. At meetings, she'd prepare comments but freeze when her turn came. At company events, she'd arrive late, leave early, spend time on her phone in corners. Passed over for promotion, feedback cited lack of executive presence. Sarah hired a communication coach, joined Toastmasters, committed to her social skills project. For 6 months, she practiced deliberately. At Toastmasters, she gave progressively longer speeches. At meetings, she committed to 1 comment per meeting despite racing heart. At events, she talked to 3 people before checking her phone. The first 2 months were excruciating. She cried in her car after several events. But she kept going. Around month 3, something shifted. Conversations felt slightly less terrifying. By month 6, she volunteered to lead presentations. A year later, she'd been promoted. Colleagues described her as articulate and confident. Did Sarah's personality change? No. She's still introverted, still needs recovery time. But she developed skills allowing her to navigate professional social situations effectively. James's story: James, a software engineer, felt awkward at events. His wife was highly social, making the contrast painful. He'd watch her effortlessly move through rooms, making connections, thinking, "I'll never do that. She's built differently." Then James paid closer attention. His wife asked lots of follow-up questions showing she'd listened. She remembered details from previous conversations. She introduced people thoughtfully. She physically moved with purpose, approaching people rather than waiting. These weren't magical traits, they were specific, observable behaviors. James decided to try them. At the next event, instead of hovering near food, he deliberately approached someone alone and asked an open-ended question. He asked follow-ups. He focused on genuine curiosity rather than worrying about how he came across. The conversation flowed naturally. Over following months, he continued practicing. Within a year, people meeting James and his wife couldn't identify which one was naturally social. He'd learned the skills. The time frame reality. How long will it take? It varies based on starting point, practice deliberateness, and desired ease level. Research suggests basic competence adequate performance in typical situations requires consistent practice over several months. Advanced proficiency handling complex situations with ease might need 1 to 2 years. Expert-level ability navigating virtually any situation with confidence requires several years. But you don't need expert level to experience dramatic improvement. Basic competence often opens previously closed doors. You typically notice benefits within the first few months of deliberate practice. Think of physical fitness. Someone out of shape doesn't need a year to experience benefits. After just weeks of consistent exercise, they notice improved energy, better sleep, enhanced mood. Marathon fitness comes later, but meaningful improvement comes sooner. The same applies to social skills. You don't need to become the most charismatic person to benefit enormously. You just need to move from where you are now to a level allowing you to navigate relevant social situations without excessive anxiety and with reasonable effectiveness. The goal of this audiobook. Let me clarify what this audiobook aims to help you achieve. What this audiobook is not. This isn't trying to turn you into someone you're not. If you're introverted, I won't push you to become extrovert. If you're naturally quiet, I won't make you loud. If you prefer small gatherings, I won't convince you otherwise. This isn't presenting socialese as a moral imperative. There's nothing wrong with struggling socially. You're not broken. This work is about expanding capabilities, not correcting flaws. This isn't promising overnight transformation. Developing socialese requires consistent practice over time. But gradual, sustainable improvement? Absolutely achievable. This isn't about manipulation or pretending. The skills will develop root in authenticity, genuine curiosity, and real connection. What this audiobook will help you achieve. First, understanding social interaction mechanics at a deep level. When you understand why certain behaviors create connection while others create distance, when you recognize patterns underlying effective communication, this understanding itself reduces anxiety. Mystery creates fear. Understanding creates confidence. Second, a comprehensive toolkit of practical, actionable techniques you can implement immediately. Every chapter includes specific exercises, practice suggestions, and real-world applications. Third, a personalized practice plan based on your specific challenges, goals, and temperament. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Fourth, retraining your nervous system's automatic responses to social situations through breathing exercises, mindfulness practices, and gradual exposure techniques. Fifth, building social confidence from the inside out through genuine competence, repeated successes, and realistic sense of capabilities. Sixth, navigating the full spectrum of social situations, one-on-one conversations, group dynamics, professional networking, social events, conflict resolution, public speaking. The philosophy behind this approach. Principle 1: Small consistent actions beat grand gestures. You'll progress more practicing 15 minutes daily than attending annual intensive workshops. Principle 2: Progression, not perfection. You need to be slightly better today than yesterday, slightly better tomorrow than today. Principle 3: Self-compassion is foundation. Research shows self-compassion leads to better outcomes than harsh self-criticism. Principle 4: Authenticity is non-negotiable. Skills enhance your ability to show up as yourself more fully, not hide behind false personas. Principle 5: Nervous system first. Before behavioral skills, we address physiological arousal. If fight or flight is activated, no conversation technique helps. A breathing exercise to begin. Let's practice a simple technique for any time you're entering a social situation feeling anxious. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, counteracting fight or flight. Find a comfortable position. Place one hand on your chest, one on your belly. We'll practice diaphragmatic breathing. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts. Let your belly expand outward. Your chest should move very little. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold gently for 2 counts. 1, 2. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 counts. Feel your belly draw inward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the exhale is longer than the inhale. This activates the vagus nerve, telling your nervous system you're safe. Let's do this 3 more times together. In through nose, belly out, for 4. Hold for 2. Out through mouth, belly in, for 6. Again. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. One more time. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. Good. Notice how your body feels now. Perhaps slightly calmer, more grounded. Use this tool anytime you need it, before walking into a party, before an interview, before approaching someone new. What comes next? In chapters ahead, we'll build your socialskills systematically. We'll start with internal work, managing your nervous system, reframing self-talk, building self-compassion. Then foundational skills, starting conversations, active listening, reading nonverbal communication. Then advanced skills, storytelling, humor, handling conflict, leading groups. Each chapter follows a similar structure. Exploring the psychology, breaking down component parts, practicing specific techniques, applying to real-world scenarios. But remember, this is not about becoming someone different. This is about becoming more fully yourself in social situations. Right now, anxiety might constrain you, causing you to hold back, to hide aspects you'd like to share. We're removing those constraints so your authentic self can show up more fully and freely. That person who seems naturally confident? They're not fundamentally different from you. They've simply developed skills you're in the process of developing. Every single one of those skills can be broken down, practiced, and mastered. You're not starting from zero. You already have social experiences, existing relationships, moments where you've connected successfully. We're building on that foundation, filling gaps, strengthening weak points, expanding your repertoire. This journey requires courage. It requires stepping outside your comfort zone repeatedly, persisting through initial awkwardness until new behaviors become natural. But I promise, it's worth it. The ability to connect with others, to navigate social situations with ease, to express yourself authentically without excessive anxiety, this capability touches every aspect of your life. Career opportunities expand. Relationships deepen. Belonging strengthens. Confidence grows, not just socially but in all domains. You've already taken the first and most important step, acknowledging that social ease can be developed and committing time and attention to it. That decision alone puts you ahead of most people who simply resign themselves to lifelong discomfort. Something can change. Something will change. With consistent practice, patience, and application of these techniques, you will develop greater social ease. Not overnight, but progressively and sustainably. Take another slow, deep breath. In through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 2, out through the mouth for 6. Feel yourself settling into this moment, into this commitment you're making to yourself. You deserve to feel comfortable in social situations. You deserve meaningful connections. You deserve to have your voice heard and presence felt. And you have the capacity to develop every skill necessary to make those things happen. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Understanding Social Energy and First Impressions. Opening. Before we dive into this chapter, let's begin with a moment of presence. Wherever you are right now, take a slow breath in through your nose for 4 counts, hold it gently for 2, and release through your mouth for 6 counts. Feel your body settling into this moment. One more time. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. Good. Now, I want you to remember the last time you walked into a room full of people you didn't know well. Maybe it was a work event, a party, a conference, or a family gathering. Do you remember that moment right before you entered? That split second where you stood at the threshold, your hand on the door handle, your heart beating just a little faster? In that moment, what were you thinking about? If you're like most people, you were probably worried about how you'd be perceived. Would people think you were interesting? Awkward? Boring? Out of place? And once you entered, you might have felt hyper-aware of every move you made, every word you spoke, wondering constantly how you were coming across. This is the tyranny of first impressions. We've all been taught that first impressions matter enormously, that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, that people form their opinions of you within seconds. And while there's truth to this, the way most people interpret this advice actually makes them more anxious and less effective in social situations. In this chapter, we're going to completely reframe how you think about first impressions. We'll explore what people actually judge in those first crucial seconds, why performing confidence is less effective than embodying calm presence, and how to enter any room with grounded confidence that feels authentic to you. What people really judge in the first 7 seconds. You've probably heard the statistic: people form first impressions within 7 seconds of meeting you. Some research suggests it's even faster, as little as 1/10 of a second for certain judgments. This can feel terrifying. 7 seconds? How are you supposed to convey your intelligence, warmth, competence, and authenticity in 7 seconds? Here's the good news: you don't need to. Because what people are actually judging in those first 7 seconds is much simpler and more primal than you think. The science of rapid social assessment. When we meet someone new, our brains are making rapid assessments based on evolutionary survival mechanisms. For most of human history, quickly determining whether a stranger was a threat or potential ally was literally a matter of life and death. Our brains still operate with these ancient algorithms. Research in social psychology, particularly the work of Princeton psychologist Alex Todorov, reveals that initial impressions are primarily based on 2 dimensions: warmth and competence. Within milliseconds of seeing someone, our brains are asking 2 fundamental questions. Question 1: does this person mean me harm or good? This is the warmth assessment. Are they friendly or hostile? Safe or dangerous? Trustworthy or suspicious? Question 2. Is this person capable of acting on their intentions? This is the competence assessment. Are they effective? Skilled? Powerful? Or ineffective and powerless? Every other judgment, intelligence, confidence, likability, status is essentially a variation or combination of these two core dimensions. Now here's what's crucial: in those first 7 seconds, people aren't assessing your warmth and competence based on what you say. They're assessing based on nonverbal signals. Your body language, your facial expressions, your energy, your tone of voice, and your overall presence. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine two people entering the same networking event. Person A walks in with shoulders slightly hunched, eyes scanning the room quickly and anxiously, face relatively expressionless or showing a forced smile, movements quick and jerky, hands clasped tightly together or fidgeting with something, and when they do make eye contact, it's brief before darting away. Person B walks in with shoulders relaxed and back, eyes scanning the room slowly and calmly, face showing a natural, gentle expression with a soft smile, movements smooth and deliberate, hands relaxed at their sides or holding something loosely, and when they make eye contact, they hold it for a moment and the smile reaches their eyes before naturally looking away. Now, neither of these people has said a single word yet. But our brains have already made assessments. Person A's signals suggest anxiety, uncertainty, possible submission, and perhaps untrustworthiness, because anxiety can be interpreted as having something to hide. Person B's signals suggest calm, confidence, openness, and security. Are these assessments accurate? Not necessarily. Person A might be brilliant, kind, and highly competent but simply nervous about large gatherings. Person B might be a complete fraud who's learned to fake confidence. But accuracy isn't the point, perception is. And perception is formed before words are exchanged. The warmth competence matrix. Understanding the warmth competence matrix can help you navigate first impressions more strategically. Research shows that these two dimensions interact in important ways. High warmth, high competence, this is the ideal quadrant. People perceived this way are admired and respected. They're seen as both friendly and capable. This is where you want to land in most social situations. High warmth, low competence. People here are liked but not particularly respected. Think of the stereotype of a friendly but incompetent coworker. They're pleasant to be around but not taken seriously. Low warmth, high competence, people here are respected but not liked. Think of the cold, brilliant professor or the effective but intimidating boss. People acknowledge their capabilities but don't want to spend time with them. Low warmth, low competence, this is the worst quadrant. People here are neither liked nor respected. They're dismissed and avoided. Here's what's interesting: research shows that warmth is actually judged first and weighted more heavily than competence in initial impressions. This makes evolutionary sense. Determining whether someone is friend or foe is more immediately important than determining how capable they are. This means that in those first 7 seconds, your primary job isn't to prove how smart, accomplished, or interesting you are. Your primary job is to signal warmth and safety. Competence can be demonstrated later, through conversation and interaction. But if you fail to signal warmth initially, you may never get the opportunity to demonstrate competence. The specific signals people read. Let's get very specific about what signals people unconsciously read in those first 7 seconds. Understanding these allows you to be more intentional about what you're communicating. Facial expression. The human face has 43 muscles dedicated to expression, and we're extraordinarily good at reading subtle variations. A genuine smile, one that engages the muscles around the eyes, creating slight crow's feet, signals warmth and approachability. A forced smile that only engages the mouth signals discomfort or deception. A neutral or slightly tense expression can signal coldness or anxiety. Eye contact. Eyes are incredibly powerful communicators. Direct eye contact signals confidence and openness. Avoiding eye contact can signal submission, anxiety, or untrustworthiness. However, there's a cultural nuance here. In some cultures, direct eye contact is seen as aggressive, while in others, it's expected and respected. In most Western contexts, making eye contact when first encountering someone, holding it for a moment, and then naturally breaking it signals appropriate confidence. Posture. Your posture communicates volumes about your internal state. Shoulders back and relaxed signals confidence and openness. Shoulders hunched or rounded forward signals insecurity or defensiveness. Taking up appropriate space, not shrinking into yourself but also not aggressively expanding, signals comfort and self-assurance. Movement quality, how you move through space matters. Smooth, deliberate movements signal calm confidence. Quick, jerky movements signal anxiety. Slow, lethargic movements can signal low energy or depression. The sweet spot is fluid and purposeful, you're moving with intention but without rush. Physical tension, people unconsciously pick up on tension in your body. Clenched jaw, tight fists, rigid shoulders, these all signal stress and discomfort, which then makes others feel uncomfortable around you. Relaxed muscles, on the other hand, signal that you're at ease, which helps others feel at ease. Vocal tone. Even before words matter, tone matters. A warm, resonant tone signals confidence and friendliness. A thin, high-pitched tone can signal anxiety. A flat, monotone delivery can signal disinterest or depression. Even in those first moments when you're not yet speaking, if people hear you greeting someone else or catch a snippet of your voice, they're making assessments. Energy level, there's an energetic quality people pick up on that's hard to quantify but very real. Some people walk into a room and seem to bring positive energy, there's a lightness, an aliveness about them. Others seem to carry heavy energy, there's a weight, a darkness. This isn't about being extroverted versus introverted. It's about being present and engaged versus being checked out or burdened. Now, here's what I want you to notice about all of these signals: not one of them requires you to be impressive, accomplished, or particularly interesting. They're all about your state of being, not your achievements or personality traits. The mistake most people make. Understanding what people judge in first impressions should be liberating, but most people interpret this information in a way that actually increases their anxiety. They think, okay, so I need to make sure I'm smiling, making eye contact, standing up straight, moving smoothly, looking relaxed, and projecting positive energy, all in the first 7 seconds. Great, more things to worry about. This approach, trying to consciously control all these signals simultaneously, doesn't work. It can't work. Because the moment you're trying to control your facial expression, your body language, your tone, and your energy, you're no longer actually relaxed. You're performing relaxation, and people can sense the difference. Think about it: when someone is genuinely comfortable and confident, they're not thinking about their body language. They're not reminding themselves to smile or stand up straight. Those behaviors emerge naturally from their internal state. When you try to manufacture these signals without the underlying state, it comes across as forced or fake. This is why so much advice about first impressions actually backfires. Just be confident, people say. Or fake it till you make it. But attempting to perform confidence while feeling anxious creates a dissonance that people pick up on, often unconsciously. They can't quite put their finger on it, but something feels off. Calm presence versus performance. So if performing confidence doesn't work, what does? The answer is cultivating genuine calm presence. Let me explain the difference. Performance mode. When you're in performance mode, you're focused on managing how you appear to others. Your attention is split. Part of you is actually in the interaction, but another part is observing and judging yourself from the outside, trying to control the impression you're making. In performance mode, you might be monitoring your facial expression to make sure you're smiling enough. Reminding yourself to maintain eye contact but not too much. Trying to think of interesting things to say. Evaluating how your previous comment landed. Worrying about awkward silences. Comparing yourself to others in the room. Planning your exit if things get too uncomfortable. Performance mode is exhausting. It requires enormous cognitive resources. And ironically, it usually results in worse impressions because the cognitive load prevents you from actually being present and responsive to the person you're interacting with. Presence mode. Presence mode is fundamentally different. When you're in presence mode, your attention is on what's actually happening right now, The person in front of you, the conversation unfolding, the environment around you. You're not split between experiencing and observing yourself experiencing. In presence mode, you're actually listening to what someone is saying, not planning your response. Noticing details about the person and environment. Responding authentically to what's happening. Allowing natural pauses without anxiety. Feeling your own body and emotions without judgment. Engaging with genuine curiosity. Accepting whatever unfolds without trying to control it. Presence mode requires much less energy than performance mode. And paradoxically, it usually creates better first impressions because when you're genuinely present, all those positive nonverbal signals emerge naturally. Why presence feels risky? If presence is more effective and less exhausting than performance, why doesn't everyone do it? Because presence feels risky. When you're in performance mode, you have the illusion of control. You're managing your image, controlling your output, protecting yourself from potential rejection or judgment. Presence means letting go of that control. It means showing up as you actually are, not as you think you should be. It means accepting that you can't perfectly manage how others perceive you. For many people, this feels terrifyingly vulnerable. But here's the paradox: the attempt to control how others see you usually makes you come across as less confident and less authentic. Letting go of that control and simply being present makes you come across as more confident and more authentic. Let me share a story that illustrates this. I once coached a man named David who was terrified of networking events. He'd spend hours before each event rehearsing conversation starters, preparing interesting stories to tell, and psyching himself up to be on. At the events, he'd be exhausting himself trying to be charming and interesting, monitoring constantly how he was being received. He'd go home feeling like he'd failed and dreading the next event. We worked on shifting from performance to presence. Before the next event, instead of rehearsing, he did a simple grounding exercise. He sat quietly for 10 minutes, breathing deeply, and set one simple intention: I'm going to be curious about the people I meet. That's it. No script, no performance, just curiosity. At the event, when he noticed himself slipping into performance mode, trying to think of something clever to say, monitoring his body language, he'd take a breath and refocus on genuine curiosity about the person in front of him. What's their experience? What matters to them? What's interesting about them? The shift was dramatic. Conversations flowed more naturally. He actually remembered what people told him because he was listening instead of planning his next comment. People responded to him more warmly because his warmth was genuine, not performed. He went home energized rather than depleted. The skills he needed weren't complicated techniques for making impressive first impressions. The skill he needed was the ability to be present. Cultivating calm presence. So how do you cultivate calm presence, especially when entering situations that trigger anxiety? It starts with understanding that presence is fundamentally about nervous system regulation. When your nervous system is in fight or flight mode, presence is nearly impossible. Your attention narrows, your thinking becomes rigid, and you're reactive rather than responsive. The key is learning to regulate your nervous system before and during social interactions. Let's practice some specific techniques. Technique 1, the 4-2-6 breath. We introduced this in the introduction, but it's worth practicing again because it's your most powerful tool for immediate nervous system regulation. This breathing pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system, shifting you from threat mode to social mode. Let's do it together right now. Place one hand on your belly. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, letting your belly expand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2 counts. 1, 2. Exhale through your mouth for 6 counts, letting your belly draw in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice what happens in your body. The longer exhale signals to your vagus nerve that you're safe, which reduces cortisol and adrenaline and increases the activity of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain you need online for effective social interaction. Before entering any social situation, spend 2 minutes doing this breathing pattern. In your car before the event, in the bathroom once you arrive, even standing outside the door before you enter. This simple practice can dramatically shift your internal state. Technique 2, the body scan. Often we're carrying tension in our bodies without realizing it. This tension broadcasts anxiety to others and keeps us trapped in our heads rather than present in the moment. Try this. Starting with your face, scan for tension. Is your jaw clenched? Soften it. Are your eyebrows pulled together? Release them. Move down to your shoulders. Are they hunched toward your ears? Let them drop. Check your hands. Are they in fists? Open them. Move through your entire body, identifying and releasing unnecessary tension. This practice serves two purposes. It actually reduces the physiological anxiety response, and it brings your attention into your body and the present moment rather than leaving you lost in anxious thoughts. Technique 3, 5 senses grounding. This is a powerful technique for shifting from being trapped in your head to being present in your environment. It's simple. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This practice interrupts the anxiety spiral and brings your awareness into immediate sensory experience. You can do a quick version of this right before entering a room. Notice 3 things you can see, 2 things you can hear, 1 thing you can physically feel. This takes less than 30 seconds but can significantly shift your state. Technique 4, the curiosity reset. When you notice yourself slipping into performance mode, monitoring yourself, trying to control how you're coming across, worrying about what to say, use this simple reset. Ask yourself, what's interesting about this person, or what's interesting about this moment? This question redirects your attention from self-focused anxiety to outward curiosity. It's nearly impossible to be simultaneously anxious about your performance and genuinely curious about someone else. Curiosity and anxiety occupy the same cognitive space. You can only genuinely experience one at a time. How to enter a room with grounded confidence. Now let's put this all together into a practical framework for entering any social situation with grounded confidence. This isn't about performing confidence, it's about creating the internal conditions from which confidence naturally emerges. Step 1, preparation before arrival. The work of making a good first impression begins before you ever enter the room. In the hour leading up to a social event, avoid activities that dysregulate your nervous system. This means limiting caffeine if you're already anxious, avoiding doomscrolling on social media, and steering clear of stressful conversations or tasks. Instead, engage in activities that support nervous system regulation. Take a walk, listen to calming music, do some gentle stretching, or simply sit quietly. 15 minutes before arrival, do a focused preparation practice. Here's a simple 5-minute preparation protocol. Minutes 1 to 2, practice the 4-2-6 breathing pattern we discussed. 6 full breath cycles. This shifts your nervous system from sympathetic, fight or flight, to parasympathetic, rest and digest, activation. Minute 3, do a quick body scan, releasing tension. Pay particular attention to your jaw, shoulders, and hands, these are common holding places for anxiety. Minute 4. Set a simple intention. Not a performance goal like be charming or make a great impression. Instead, something like be curious or be present or connect authentically with one person. One clear, simple intention that orients you toward presence rather than performance. Minute 5, visualize yourself entering the space feeling calm and grounded. Don't visualize being the most interesting person in the room or having everyone love you. Just visualize yourself walking in with your shoulders relaxed, breathing easily, and feeling okay in your own skin. Step 2, the threshold moment. There's often a specific moment when you're about to enter a space, your hand is on the door handle or you're about to step into the room when anxiety spikes. This is a crucial moment. How you handle it sets the tone for everything that follows. Most people either try to push through the anxiety, just go. Don't be a coward. Or they give in to it, retreat, pull out their phone, find a reason to delay. Neither of these approaches is particularly effective. Instead, pause at the threshold. Acknowledge what you're feeling without judgment. I'm noticing anxiety right now. That's okay. My body is trying to protect me, even though there's no real danger here. Take one deep 4-2-6 breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Then enter. This pause, literally 10 to 15 seconds, makes an enormous difference. You're not pushing through anxiety or being controlled by it. You're acknowledging it and choosing to proceed anyway. Step 3, the entry. As you enter the room, resist the urge to scan frantically for someone you know or immediately pull out your phone. Instead, enter slowly and deliberately. Stand still for a moment just inside the entrance. Take in the space. Do a quick 5 senses grounding. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I physically feel? This moment of stillness and orientation does several things. First, it centers you in your body and the present moment. Second, it signals confidence. People who are comfortable take their time and claim their space. Third, it allows you to assess the environment and make an informed decision about where to go or who to approach rather than reacting anxiously. If you're entering with someone, resist the urge to cling to them. It's fine to enter together, but then allow some space. People who are confident can be physically separate from their social anchors. Step 4, Body Language Basics. As you move through the space, there are a few simple body language principles that support the impression of calm confidence. Shoulders back and down, not in an exaggerated military posture, just relaxed and open. This opens your chest, helps you breathe more deeply, and signals openness and confidence. Head level. Not staring at the floor, not scanning the ceiling, just head level with a relaxed gaze. This signals that you're comfortable in the space and open to interaction. Smooth, purposeful movement, avoid darting around anxiously or freezing in place. Move through the space with purpose, even if that purpose is just to get a glass of water or find a spot to stand. Open hand position, avoid crossing your arms, signals defensiveness, clasping your hands tightly, signals anxiety. Or fidgeting with your phone, signals discomfort. Let your arms hang naturally or hold a drink loosely. Appropriate space taking, don't shrink into yourself, trying to take up as little space as possible. But also don't aggressively expand into others' space. Take up an appropriate, relaxed amount of space. Here's what's important to understand: these body language basics are easiest to maintain when your nervous system is regulated. If you're in fight or flight mode, no amount of conscious control will make you look relaxed. But if you've done the preparation work, if you've paused at the threshold, if you've taken a moment to orient yourself, your body language will naturally reflect your internal calm. Step 5, Making eye contact. One of the most common questions about first impressions is about eye contact. How much? How long? What if it feels awkward? Here's a simple guideline. When you first see someone you might interact with, make eye contact. Hold it for about 2 to 3 seconds, long enough to register genuine connection but not so long it becomes a stare. Let a natural, soft smile reach your face. Then look away naturally. This brief moment of eye contact before any words are exchanged signals openness and confidence. It says, I see you, I'm comfortable being seen, and I'm open to interaction. When you do approach someone or someone approaches you, return to eye contact. During initial conversation, aim for eye contact about 60 to 70% of the time, enough to show engagement but with natural breaks that keep it comfortable. If eye contact feels difficult for you, here's a trick. Look at the bridge of someone's nose or at one of their eyes rather than trying to maintain contact with both eyes simultaneously. From their perspective, this looks like full eye contact, but it's often easier to maintain. Step 6, The first words. When you do speak your first words, whether you're introducing yourself or responding to someone else's introduction, the content matters less than you think. What matters is that your voice is warm, your pace is unhurried, and your attention is genuinely on the other person rather than on monitoring yourself. A simple, genuine hi, I'm, your name, delivered with a warm tone and present attention is more effective than the most clever opening line delivered with anxious energy. If you blank on what to say, that's okay. A genuine "I'm blanking on what to say" networking events make me a bit nervous is far more endearing and confidence inspiring than anxiously trying to fill the silence with something impressive. Step 7. Staying present through the interaction. The challenge isn't just entering the room with grounded confidence. It's maintaining that presence throughout the interaction. You'll likely notice moments when you slip back into performance mode, when you start monitoring yourself, when you begin worrying about how you're coming across, when you catch yourself planning your next comment instead of listening. When you notice this happening, use it as a cue to return to presence. Take a subtle breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Refocus on genuine curiosity about the person in front of you. This return to presence might happen multiple times in a single conversation, and that's completely normal. The skill isn't never leaving presence, it's noticing when you've left and knowing how to return. A real-world example. Let me walk you through how this might look in practice. Imagine you're attending a professional networking event. You're naturally introverted, and crowds make you anxious, but you know this event could be valuable for your career. On the drive to the event, you listen to calming music instead of rehearsing what you'll say. You arrive 10 minutes early and sit in your car doing the 5-minute preparation protocol, breathing practice, body scan, setting your intention, be genuinely curious about people's work, brief visualization of entering the space feeling okay. You walk to the entrance and pause with your hand on the door. You notice your heart beating faster, acknowledge its anxiety, take one deep breath, then enter. You don't rush immediately into the crowd. You stand near the entrance for 15 seconds, taking in the space, noticing the lighting, the conversations, the physical feel of the room. You move toward the refreshments area with purposeful, unhurried steps. You get a glass of water, which gives your hands something to do and provides a legitimate reason to be standing alone for a moment while you continue orienting to the space. You notice someone else standing alone near a window, looking slightly uncomfortable. You make brief eye contact, they return it, you offer a small smile. You walk over with calm, steady steps. "Hi, I'm," name, you say, extending your hand. Your voice is warm, your pace unhurried. You're not trying to impress them with your opening line, you're simply present. They introduce themselves, and instead of thinking about what to say next, you actually listen to their name and try to connect it with something to help you remember it. "Nice to meet you. Is this your first time at one of these events?" you ask, genuinely curious about their answer, not asking because it's a clever conversation starter. They respond, and you notice yourself starting to drift into performance mode. You're thinking about how you must look, whether you're being interesting enough. You catch this, take a subtle breath, feel your feet on the ground, and return your attention to genuine curiosity about what they're saying. The conversation continues. There are moments of easy flow and moments of slight awkwardness, and you allow both without trying to control every second. When the conversation naturally winds down, you end it gracefully rather than clinging to it out of fear of being alone again. "It was really nice talking with you. I'm going to circulate a bit, but I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening." You move through the event this way. Not trying to meet everyone or be the most memorable person in the room, just being present with whoever you interact with, returning to breath and grounding when anxiety rises, allowing yourself to take breaks when you need them. By the end of the evening, you're tired. Social interaction is genuinely tiring for introverts, but you're not depleted the way you used to be after networking events. You've had several genuine conversations. A few people asked for your business card. You feel okay about how things went, not perfect, but okay. And that feeling of okayness is itself a victory. Closing practice. Let's end this chapter with a practice you can use anytime you're preparing to enter a social situation. Find a comfortable seated position. Place both feet flat on the floor. Feel the weight of your body being supported by the chair, the ground beneath you. You're held by the earth. You're safe right here, right now. Take a deep breath in through your nose for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2. 1, 2. Release through your mouth for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. One more time. In for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. Now, place one hand over your heart. Feel the steady rhythm of your heartbeat. This heart has been beating your entire life without you having to think about it. Your body knows how to be alive. You can trust your body. Say to yourself, either silently or aloud, I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to impress everyone. I just need to show up and be present. That's enough. Take one more deep breath. In and out. When you're ready, open your eyes if they were closed. Remember, the goal isn't to make everyone like you or to be the most impressive person in the room. The goal is simply to be present, to be yourself, and to approach others with genuine curiosity and warmth. Everything else will flow from that foundation. In the next chapter, we'll build on this foundation by exploring the specific skills of starting and sustaining conversations. But for now, your practice is simply this: the next time you enter a social situation, use the techniques from this chapter. Prepare beforehand. Pause at the threshold. Enter with intention. Stay present. Notice when you slip into performance mode and gently return to presence. It won't be perfect. You'll forget sometimes. You'll get anxious. You'll have awkward moments. That's all part of the process. Be patient with yourself. Every time you practice, you're literally rewiring your brain, making it easier the next time. You're building a skill. And like any skill, it develops through consistent, compassionate practice. You've got this. Chapter 2: Reading Social Cues Like a Pro. In this chapter, we're going to explore something absolutely transformative: the art of reading social cues like a professional. This isn't about mind reading or manipulation. It's about developing a skill that will make you feel more confident, connected, and genuinely present in every social interaction you encounter. Think about the last time you walked into a room full of people. Maybe it was a party, a meeting, or just a casual gathering. Do you remember that feeling? That subtle anxiety about whether you belong, whether people are happy to see you, whether you're saying the right things? What if I told you that most of that anxiety comes from simply not knowing how to read the room? Today, we're going to change that forever. Understanding the silent language. Here's a fascinating truth from social psychology. Research shows that approximately 65 to 93% of communication is nonverbal. Let that sink in for a moment. The actual words we speak? They're just a fraction of the message. The real conversation is happening beneath the surface, in gestures, expressions, postures, and tones. Albert Mehrabian, a pioneering researcher in nonverbal communication, discovered something revolutionary in his studies during the late 1960s. When we're communicating feelings and attitudes, only 7% comes from the words themselves. 38% is conveyed through vocal elements like tone and pace, and a stunning 55% comes through facial expressions and body language. But here's what makes this truly empowering: these aren't magical abilities that some people are born with and others aren't. These are learnable skills. Every single person can become fluent in this silent language. And when you do, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling like an outsider trying to break into conversations. You start feeling like someone who truly understands what's really being said. The foundation: body language decoding. Let's start with the fundamentals of body language. I want you to imagine yourself as a friendly observer, not a detective trying to catch people in lies. This mindset is crucial. When you approach social situations with curiosity rather than judgment, you naturally become more perceptive. The core principles of reading bodies. First, never interpret a single gesture in isolation. This is perhaps the most important rule. If someone crosses their arms, it doesn't automatically mean they're defensive. They might be cold. They might just find it comfortable. The magic happens when you notice clusters of signals that tell a consistent story. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you're at a coffee shop, and you notice someone sitting alone at a nearby table. Their arms are crossed, but look closer. Are their shoulders hunched forward? Is their jaw tight? Are they avoiding eye contact with everyone around them? Now you're seeing a cluster that suggests discomfort or desire for privacy. But what if those crossed arms are accompanied by a relaxed face, direct eye contact when someone walks by, and an open laptop with headphones nearby? Completely different story. This person is simply focused and comfortable. Reading openness and engagement. When someone is genuinely engaged and open to interaction, their body tells you clearly. Their torso faces you directly. Think about this. When you're interested in something, you naturally orient your entire body toward it. It's instinctive. Their arms remain uncrossed or loosely positioned. Their palms might be visible, a universal sign of openness and honesty that dates back to our evolutionary need to show we're not holding weapons. Watch the feet. This is a secret that most people miss completely. Feet are incredibly honest because we don't think about controlling them. When someone's feet point toward you during a conversation, they're engaged. When feet point toward an exit or away from you, even if their upper body is angled politely in your direction, they're mentally preparing to leave. Let me share a real-world scenario. You're at a networking event, talking with someone new. The conversation seems fine on the surface. They're nodding, maintaining decent eye contact. But notice their feet. Are they pointed at you, or are they angled toward the rest of the room? If they're angled away, their body is literally showing you their desire to move on, even if they're too polite to say it. This isn't rejection. It's just information. You can gracefully wrap up the conversation, leaving both of you feeling good about the interaction. Recognizing discomfort and barriers. Now let's talk about reading discomfort, because understanding when someone feels uneasy helps you become the kind of person who makes others feel safe. Crossed arms combined with a turned-away torso creates a physical barrier. Minimal eye contact, especially when it's inconsistent, often signals anxiety or discomfort. Touching the neck or face repeatedly, these are self-soothing gestures we unconsciously perform when we're stressed. Here's a practical technique I want you to practice this week. It's called the mirror test. When you're in a conversation, subtly notice if the other person begins to mirror your posture. If you lean in slightly and they lean in too, if you gesture and they start gesturing, this is called limbic synchrony. It's one of the most reliable signs that rapport is building. Our brains are wired with mirror neurons that make us unconsciously copy people we feel connected to. The power of proxemics. Let's discuss something fascinating called proxemics, the study of personal space. Edward Hall, an anthropologist, identified 4 distinct zones of interpersonal distance, and understanding these will transform how you navigate social situations. Intimate space is 0 to 18 inches. This is reserved for close relationships, romantic partners, immediate family. When strangers invade this space, we feel viscerally uncomfortable. Personal space extends from 18 inches to 4 feet. This is where most friendly conversations happen. Social space is 4 to 12 feet, typical for acquaintances and professional settings. Public space is anything beyond 12 feet. Here's why this matters practically. Imagine you're at a party and you want to join a conversation. If you step directly into someone's personal space uninvited, their body will respond with subtle withdrawal signals even if they're trying to be polite. Their shoulders might tense, they might lean back slightly, their smile might become fixed rather than genuine. But if you approach the outer edge of social space first, you give people time to visually acknowledge you and non-verbally invite you closer. This small adjustment makes an enormous difference in how welcomed you feel. Decoding tone, pace, and vocal dynamics. Now let's move into the realm of sound. Close your eyes for a moment and recall someone saying "I'm fine." Can you hear different ways that phrase could be delivered? With genuine contentment? With bitter sarcasm? With barely concealed frustration? The words are identical, but the meaning shifts completely based on vocal dynamics. The architecture of tone. Tone operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There's pitch, the highness or lowness of someone's voice. When people are excited or anxious, pitch naturally rises. When they're calm or trying to convey authority, it lowers. There's volume, which signals intensity of emotion. There's timbre, the quality or color of the voice, which carries emotional texture. And there's inflection, the way pitch moves within sentences. Let me give you a framework for reading tone effectively. Listen for what I call the congruence check. Do the words match the tone? When someone says they're happy to see you with a flat, monotone voice, you're receiving mixed signals. Trust the tone over the words. Our vocal cords are much harder to control consciously than our word choices. Understanding pace and rhythm. The speed at which someone speaks tells you volumes about their internal state. Rapid speech often indicates excitement, anxiety, or enthusiasm. Think about someone telling you about something they're passionate about. The words tumble out quickly, one thought racing into the next. Conversely, slow, measured speech suggests thoughtfulness, caution, or sometimes sadness. But here's where it gets interesting. Changes in pace within a conversation are particularly revealing. Someone who's been speaking steadily who suddenly speeds up might be becoming anxious or excited about a particular topic. Someone who slows down dramatically might be choosing words carefully because the topic is sensitive or important to them. Practical exercise, the vocal calibration technique. I want to teach you a powerful technique for immediately improving your ability to read vocal cues. It's called vocal calibration, and here's how it works. Step 1. At the beginning of any conversation, spend the first minute simply establishing a baseline. How does this person naturally speak? What's their normal pace? Their typical volume? Their baseline tone? Everyone has a natural set point. Step 2. Throughout the conversation, notice deviations from that baseline. When do they speak faster? When does their voice get softer or louder? When does the pitch change? Step 3. Connect those changes to content. What were you discussing when their voice sped up? What topic made their tone drop? This might sound complex, but I promise you, after practicing this for just a few conversations, it becomes automatic. Your brain is actually already doing this unconsciously. We're just bringing it into conscious awareness so you can use the information intentionally. Let me give you a real scenario. You're talking with a colleague about a new project. For the first few minutes, they're speaking in their normal rhythm, moderate pace, relaxed tone. Then you mention a particular team member who'll be involved, and suddenly their pace quickens slightly, their pitch rises just a bit, and they start using more filler words like and well. Their words say they think it's fine, but their voice is telling you there's anxiety or concern there. This gives you the opportunity to gently probe deeper with something like, "You seem like you might have some thoughts about working with them. What's your experience been?" The subtle world of micro-expressions. Now we enter one of the most fascinating territories in all of social psychology, micro-expressions. These are involuntary facial expressions that flash across our faces in a fraction of a second, typically lasting between 1/15th to 1/25th of a second. They reveal true emotions before our conscious mind can suppress them. Paul Ekman, the psychologist who pioneered this research, identified 7 universal emotions that manifest in consistent facial expressions across all human cultures: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt. These expressions are hardwired into us, regardless of where we're born or what culture we're raised in. Why micro-expressions matter. Here's what makes micro-expressions so valuable. In social situations, people often mask their true feelings. We smile politely when we're actually uncomfortable. We appear calm when we're anxious. But for that split second before the mask goes on, the truth flashes across our face. Now, I need to be clear about something important. Noticing micro-expressions isn't about catching people in lies or having some power over them. It's about understanding the complete emotional landscape of an interaction. It's about empathy and connection. Learning to spot micro-expressions. The genuine smile versus the polite smile. This is your first lesson in micro-expressions, and it's surprisingly easy to learn. A genuine smile, what's called a Duchenne smile, activates the muscles around the eyes, creating crow's feet wrinkles. The mouth curves up, but more importantly, the whole face lights up. A polite or fake smile only activates the mouth muscles. The eyes remain unchanged. Practice this right now. Give a polite smile, the kind you'd give a stranger. Notice how your eyes don't really change. Now think of something that genuinely makes you happy, maybe a beloved pet or a funny memory, and smile. Feel the difference? See how your eyes crinkle? That's what to look for in others. Reading brief flashes of emotion. Fear flashes across the face with widened eyes, raised eyebrows, and an open mouth. It's that startled look. Anger tightens the jaw, narrows the eyes, and lowers the brows into a furrow. Disgust involves a wrinkled nose and raised upper lip. Contempt is unique, it's actually an asymmetrical expression, one corner of the mouth raised in a kind of smirk. Here's a practical application. You're in a meeting and you propose an idea. You scan the room. Most faces show neutral attention, but you catch a brief flash of surprise on one person's face, quickly replaced by a thoughtful expression, and a micro-expression of contempt on another person's face, instantly masked by a professional nod. What have you learned? The surprised person might be caught off guard but potentially interested. The contemptuous person has likely already dismissed the idea and may resist it. You now have social intelligence that lets you navigate the rest of the meeting more effectively. The reality check on micro-expressions. I want to be honest with you. Becoming truly skilled at reading micro-expressions takes practice. You won't catch every one, especially at first. But here's the beautiful part, you don't need to. Catching even one or two genuine micro-expressions in a conversation gives you dramatically more insight than most people ever have. Start small. For the next week, just practice distinguishing genuine smiles from polite ones. That's it. Once that becomes automatic, which it will surprisingly quickly, you can add another expression to your awareness. Sensing group dynamics quickly. Now let's zoom out from individual interactions to something even more powerful, reading entire group dynamics. When you walk into a room with multiple people, there's an invisible web of relationships, hierarchies, alliances, and tensions. Learning to see this web quickly is like gaining a superpower. The map of social structures. Every group, whether it's a family gathering, a work team, or a party, has a structure. There are leaders, formal or informal. There are subgroups and alliances. There are people with high social capital and people on the periphery. Your goal isn't to judge this hierarchy, it's simply to see it accurately so you can navigate it effectively. Here's your quick scanning technique for entering any group situation. I call it the 3-layer scan. First layer, physical positioning. Notice where people are positioned in the room. Who's at the center of the largest cluster? This person often has social influence. Who's standing slightly apart? They might be newer to the group or have lower social connection. Look at body orientations. Whose body is everyone facing? That's often the informal leader or the most engaging person in that moment. Let me paint you a scenario. You walk into a work party. There's a cluster of 6 people near the kitchen. 5 of them are in a loose circle, but their bodies are all subtly angled toward one person. That person likely has social authority in this setting. There's another group of 3 people by the window. They're standing closer together, their circle is tighter, and they're leaning in toward each other. This is probably a closer subgroup, maybe people who know each other well outside of work. Second layer, interaction patterns. Now observe who talks to whom. Who initiates conversations? Who gets interrupted, and who never gets interrupted? Whose statements get responses and whose get overlooked? These patterns reveal social hierarchy and group dynamics. Watch for what I call the echo effect. When someone makes a statement and multiple people verbally agree or build on it, that person has influence in this group. Conversely, when someone speaks and the conversation just continues as if they hadn't spoken, they have low social capital in this particular context. Third layer, energy flow. This is the most subtle but perhaps most useful layer. Where is the energy in the room? What's the emotional tone? Is it relaxed or tense? upbeat or subdued? And crucially, are there pockets of different energy? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You walk into a family gathering. The overall energy seems pleasant, but when you tune in more carefully, you notice that the energy between two particular people, maybe your aunt and uncle, feels tight and strained. They're not openly arguing, but there's a quality of careful politeness between them that contrasts with the warmth elsewhere. This awareness helps you avoid accidentally stepping into a sensitive dynamic. Identifying social roles. Every group has people playing different social roles, usually unconsciously. There's typically a connector, someone who knows everyone and introduces people to each other. There's often an energizer, someone whose enthusiasm lifts the mood. There's usually a harmonizer, someone who smooths over conflicts and finds common ground. And there's frequently a gatekeeper, someone who controls access to resources, information, or other people. Recognizing these roles quickly helps you understand how to engage effectively. If you want to meet more people at a party, find the connector. If the mood feels heavy, notice who the energizer is and position yourself near them. If there's tension, watch how the harmonizer operates and support their efforts. Practical integration, the 3-second red. Let me give you a comprehensive technique that brings everything together. I call it the 3-second red. This is what you do every single time you enter a social situation or start a conversation. Second 1, environmental scan. What's the overall setting and energy? How many people? What's the general mood and noise level? Where are the main clusters of interaction? Second 2, target focus. If you're approaching a specific person or group, what's their body language telling you? Open or closed? Engaged or distracted? What's the baseline tone and energy? Second 3, entry strategy. Based on what you observed, how will you enter? Do you need to wait for an opening? Should you approach from a certain angle? Is this the right moment, or should you wait? This might sound like a lot to do in 3 seconds, but remember, your brain is already processing all of this information unconsciously. We're just training you to make it conscious and actionable. Real-life scenarios. Putting it all together. Let me walk you through 3 complete scenarios so you can see how all these elements work together in practice. Scenario 1, the networking event. You enter a professional networking event. Your 3-second read shows you there are about 30 people in clusters of 3 to 6. The energy is moderately upbeat, professional but not stiff. You spot a group of 4 people standing in an open square formation rather than a closed circle, suggesting they're open to others joining. You approach from an angle where you're visible, maintaining social space distance initially. As you get close, you make eye contact with one person and smile genuinely. You notice their micro-expression shows surprise followed immediately by a welcoming smile, a Duchenne smile with crinkled eyes. Their body begins to turn toward you, feet reorienting in your direction. This is your nonverbal invitation to enter. You step into the social space zone and introduce yourself. As you begin talking, you calibrate to the group's baseline pace of conversation, slightly quicker than your natural rhythm, suggesting some excitement or energy. You mirror their level of animation subtly. You notice one person keeps glancing at their watch and their feet point toward the exit. You make a mental note that they're likely planning to leave soon. Another person maintains strong eye contact with you, leans in slightly when you speak, and you catch them mirroring your hand gesture from a moment ago. This person is engaged and potentially interested in continuing the conversation. When the watch glancer makes their polite exit, you continue the conversation with the engaged individuals, and it flows naturally into a valuable professional connection. Scenario 2, the difficult conversation. You need to have a potentially uncomfortable conversation with a friend about something that's been bothering you. Before you even start, you observe their baseline, they're naturally expressive, speak with varied tone and moderate pace, maintain comfortable eye contact, and have open body language. As you begin raising the sensitive topic, you immediately notice changes. Their shoulders tense slightly. Their eye contact becomes more fixed, almost staring rather than naturally engaging. Their pace slows and their tone flattens. You catch a brief micro-expression of fear or worry flash across their face. These are all signals that they're becoming defensive or anxious. Instead of pushing forward with your concerns immediately, you shift. You soften your tone, slow your own pace to match theirs, and create a little more physical space by leaning back slightly. You say something like, "I can see this might feel uncomfortable, and I really just want us to understand each other better." You notice their shoulders drop slightly and their jaw loosens. This is their body releasing some tension. You continue the conversation with this awareness, constantly monitoring and adjusting based on what their body and voice tell you. When you see them becoming more closed, you pause and invite their perspective. When you see them opening up, you share more of your feelings. The conversation becomes a dance where you're both responsive partners rather than opponents, and you reach genuine understanding. Scenario 3, the social gathering. You're at a friend's birthday party where you only know the host. Your initial 3-layer scan shows one large group of about 8 people who are clearly close friends, laughing loudly and showing very open body language with each other. There's a smaller group of 3 having a quieter, more intimate conversation. And there are a few individuals floating between groups or standing alone. You recognize that directly approaching the large close-knit group would be challenging. They're displaying classic in-group signals, inside jokes, physical touch, tight spatial proximity. Instead, you approach one of the solo individuals, someone standing near the food table. Their body language is open, they're not buried in their phone, and they make eye contact when you glance their way. You start a conversation using the proxemic principle, entering social space first. As you talk, you discover they also don't know many people here. You both naturally become allies in this situation. Later, you notice the large group's energy shift. They're no longer in that tight formation. A few people have broken off. The spatial arrangement has loosened. You and your new friend approach this now more open group together. Safety in numbers. You position yourselves near the outer edge, and within a minute, someone from the group acknowledges you, drawing you naturally into the conversation. You successfully navigated a potentially intimidating social situation by reading and responding to the dynamics rather than forcing your way in. Breathing exercise, centering before social interaction. Before we continue, let's practice a technique that will help you implement everything we've discussed. When you're about to enter a social situation, especially one that makes you nervous, this breathing exercise will center you and sharpen your perception. Sit or stand comfortably. Close your eyes if you can, or soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you breathe, set an intention. Say to yourself, "I am observant. I am curious. I am present." Repeat this cycle 3 times before entering the social situation. What this does is activate your parasympathetic nervous system, reducing anxiety, while simultaneously bringing your attention to the present moment. You'll notice details you would otherwise miss. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Let me address some common pitfalls that people encounter when learning these skills. Mistake 1, overanalysis paralysis. Some people become so focused on reading cues that they forget to actually participate in the interaction. They're so busy analyzing every gesture and tone that they become disconnected observers rather than engaged participants. The solution? Trust that your unconscious mind is processing all of this. You don't need to consciously note every single signal. Just set the intention to notice, then let yourself be present in the conversation. The insights will emerge naturally. Mistake 2, jumping to conclusions. Someone crosses their arms and you immediately think they hate you. This is single signal interpretation, and it's almost always wrong. Always look for clusters of signals and consider context. Maybe they're just cold. Maybe it's how they always stand. Unless you see multiple congruent signals, don't draw conclusions. Mistake 3. Forgetting cultural differences. While many expressions and signals are universal, personal space preferences, eye contact norms, and gesture meanings can vary significantly across cultures. Someone from a culture where less direct eye contact is respectful might seem evasive to someone from a culture where strong eye contact signals honesty. Always consider cultural context and, when in doubt, observe and mirror rather than assuming. Mistake 4: Using knowledge manipulatively. This is crucial. The goal of reading social cues isn't to manipulate or control people. It's to understand them better so you can connect more authentically. If you find yourself thinking, "How can I use this to get what I want?" pause and reframe to, "How can I use this to understand what they need?" Advanced practice techniques. Now that you understand the fundamentals, let me give you some advanced practice techniques that will accelerate your skill development. The silent observation hour. Once a week, put yourself in a social situation where you're comfortable being quiet. Maybe a coffee shop, a park, or a party where you can hang back for a while. Spend 30 to 60 minutes simply observing interactions without participating. Watch conversations. Notice patterns. See how people approach each other. Identify micro-expressions. This is pure practice without the pressure of having to respond. The prediction game. When you're watching people interact, start making predictions based on what you observe. That person is about to leave this conversation. Those two people are going to hit it off. This group is going to laugh in the next 30 seconds. Then see if you're right. This isn't about being perfect. It's about training your brain to use social cues to anticipate social movements. The baseline journal. For people you interact with regularly, keep mental or written notes about their baselines. How does your colleague normally speak when they're calm? How does your friend's face look when they're genuinely happy versus politely engaged? The better you know someone's baseline, the more immediately you'll spot when something is different. Video analysis. Watch movies or shows with the sound off. Just observe the actor's body language and facial expressions. Can you tell what emotions they're portraying? What the relationship dynamics are? Then watch again with sound and see how accurate you were. Actors exaggerate expressions, which makes them perfect for training your eye to spot more subtle versions in real life. Building long-term skill. Becoming truly fluent in reading social cues is a journey, not a destination. I've been studying and practicing this for years, and I still notice new things constantly. That's the beauty of it. There's always another layer of nuance to discover. Here's what I want you to understand. You don't need to be perfect at this. Even catching a fraction of the signals we've discussed will dramatically improve your social confidence and connection. Every small insight makes you more effective in your relationships. Commit to practicing one technique from this chapter this week. Just one. Maybe it's the 3-second read when you enter rooms. Maybe it's distinguishing genuine from polite smiles. Maybe it's the vocal calibration technique in your conversations. Choose one, practice it until it feels natural, then add another. The deeper purpose. Before we close this chapter, I want to remind you why this matters beyond just social success. When you can read social cues accurately, you develop genuine empathy. You stop making assumptions about people and start seeing them clearly. You recognize when someone needs support even if they're saying they're fine. You notice when someone feels excluded and you have the power to include them. You sense when a conversation has run its course and can gracefully transition. This isn't about becoming a social manipulator. It's about becoming someone who makes others feel seen, heard, and understood. That's the real gift of these skills. When you walk into a room and you can read the social landscape, you stop worrying about yourself and you start having the capacity to genuinely contribute to the collective well-being of everyone there. Take another deep breath with me. In through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. You're developing skills that most people never consciously learn. You're becoming someone who understands the full spectrum of human communication. Trust the process. Practice with patience. And watch how your social world transforms. In the next chapter, we'll build on this foundation by exploring how to initiate conversations with genuine confidence and create connections that feel natural and effortless. But for now, you have everything you need to start reading the room like a pro. Go practice. Observe. Learn. And most importantly, connect. Chapter 3: Staying Calm in Any Interaction. Before we dive in, let's take a moment together. Place one hand on your chest. Feel it rise and fall. You're here. You're present. And in this chapter, we're going to explore something that will change your social life forever. How to stay genuinely calm in any interaction, no matter how intimidating it feels. Imagine this. You're about to walk into a job interview, or approach someone you find attractive, or speak up in a meeting full of people who seem more confident than you. Your heart starts racing. Your palms sweat. Your mind fills with worst-case scenarios. What if I mess up? What if they judge me? What if I freeze? Here's what I want you to know right now, that anxiety response isn't your enemy. It's actually your body trying to protect you. And once you understand how it works, you can work with it instead of fighting against it. Today, you're going to learn exactly how to regulate your nervous system, reset your mental state in seconds, and redirect anxious thoughts before they spiral. These aren't just concepts. These are practical, proven techniques you can use immediately. Understanding your nervous system. Let's start with the foundation. Your nervous system has two primary modes, and understanding them is the key to everything we'll discuss today. There's the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. When you perceive a threat, even a social threat like judgment or rejection, your sympathetic nervous system activates instantly. This isn't conscious. It happens in milliseconds. Your amygdala, the ancient fear center in your brain, sends out an alarm. Suddenly, cortisol and adrenaline flood your bloodstream. Your heart rate increases. Blood flows away from your digestive system and toward your muscles. Your pupils dilate. Your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This system evolved to help you escape from predators. It's brilliant for physical danger. But here's the problem: your brain can't distinguish between a lion chasing you and the fear of social embarrassment. The same system activates. Except you don't need to run from a conversation. You need to engage in it. That's where the conflict happens. The parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite. When it's activated, your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. Your muscles relax. Your mind clears. Digestion resumes. You enter a state of calm alertness where you can think clearly, respond naturally, and genuinely connect with others. Here's the empowering truth. You can consciously activate your parasympathetic nervous system. You have direct control over the switch. The techniques I'm about to teach you are based on decades of neuroscience research and polyvagal theory, developed by Stephen Porges. This isn't mystical. It's biology that you can harness. The science of calm. Let me explain something fascinating about your vagus nerve. This nerve runs from your brainstem down through your face, throat, heart, and digestive system. It's the primary highway of your parasympathetic nervous system. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, you directly activate the calming response. Research shows that people with higher vagal tone, meaning a more responsive vagus nerve, recover from stress faster, regulate emotions more effectively, and even show more prosocial behavior. The beautiful news? You can strengthen your vagal tone through specific practices. There are direct vagal nerve stimulators. Slow, deep breathing, especially when you extend the exhale longer than the inhale. Cold exposure, like splashing cold water on your face. Humming or singing, which creates vibrations that stimulate the nerve. And social connection itself, particularly face-to-face interaction with safe, supportive people. But there's something even more powerful. Your mind and body are in constant communication. When your body is calm, it sends signals to your brain that you're safe. When your brain interprets a situation as safe, it sends calming signals to your body. You can intervene at either point in this loop to create a cascade of calm. The slowed breathing technique. Let's start with the most accessible and powerful tool you have, your breath. Right now, notice how you're breathing. Don't change it yet, just observe. Are your breaths shallow or deep? Fast or slow? Are you breathing into your chest or your belly? Most people, especially when anxious, breathe rapidly and shallowly into their upper chest. This type of breathing actually signals to your brain that there's danger, reinforcing the stress response. It's a vicious cycle. Anxiety causes shallow breathing. Shallow breathing increases anxiety. The intervention is simple but profound. I'm going to teach you the 4-7-8 breath technique, adapted from ancient yogic practices and popularized by Dr. Andrew Weil. This specific pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system in as little as 3 breath cycles. The 4-7-8 breath, step by step. Find a comfortable position, sitting or standing. Place the tip of your tongue against the ridge of tissue behind your upper front teeth. Keep it there throughout the exercise. This position is important because it creates a specific pathway for the air that enhances the calming effect. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound. This is the starting point. Empty your lungs fully. Now close your mouth and inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel your belly expand, not your chest. Hold your breath for a count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is where the magic happens. The pause allows oxygen to be fully absorbed and carbon dioxide to build slightly, which triggers a relaxation response. Exhale completely through your mouth, making that whooshing sound, for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This extended exhale is crucial. It's what specifically activates the vagus nerve and switches on your parasympathetic system. That's one complete cycle. The ratio is what matters more than the absolute duration. If you can't comfortably do 4-7-8, try 3-5-6 or 2-4-6. Keep the same proportions. When and how to use this? Here's the practical application. Before any interaction that makes you nervous, do 4 complete cycles of this breathing pattern. It takes about 1 minute. That's it. 1 minute to physiologically shift your entire nervous system state. Let me walk you through a real scenario. You're in your car in the parking lot before a networking event. You can feel the anxiety building. Instead of walking in while your body is in fight or flight mode, you take 1 minute. 4 cycles of 4-7-8 breathing. By the 4th cycle, your heart rate has measurably decreased. Your mind feels clearer. Your hands are steadier. You walk in physiologically calm, which means you can access your social skills naturally. But here's what's even more powerful. You can do modified versions of this during interactions. If you're in a conversation and feel anxiety spiking, you can simply extend your exhales without making it obvious. While the other person is talking, breathe in for a normal count and out for twice as long. They won't notice, but your nervous system will respond. The mental reset technique. Breathing regulates your body, but you also need tools to regulate your mind. Anxious thoughts can spiral quickly. One worried thought leads to another, which leads to catastrophizing, and suddenly you've convinced yourself that this interaction will be a disaster. The mental reset technique combines breathing with cognitive reframing. It's based on principles from cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness practices. Here's how it works. The 3-part mental reset. Part 1 is pause and breathe. The moment you notice anxious thoughts starting, take 1 deep 4-7-8 breath. This creates a brief interruption in the thought spiral. Your thoughts were racing forward. The breath brings you back to now. Part 2 is name it. Literally label what you're experiencing. Say to yourself, silently or aloud if you're alone, this is anxiety, or these are anxious thoughts, or my body is in fight or flight mode. This simple act of naming creates psychological distance between you and the emotion. You're not the anxiety. You're the person observing anxiety. Research from UCLA shows that the act of labeling emotions reduces activity in the amygdala and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought. You're literally shifting from the emotional brain to the thinking brain. Part 3 is redirect with reality. Ask yourself 3 questions. First, what evidence do I have for this worried thought? Usually, the answer is little to none. Second, what's the most likely realistic outcome, not the worst-case scenario? Third, even if the feared outcome happens, what would I do? Having a plan, even for the worst case, reduces anxiety. Let me give you a concrete example. You're about to approach someone at a party. Your anxious mind says, they're going to think I'm boring and want to get away from me. Pause and breathe. 1478 cycle. Name it, this is social anxiety. Redirect with reality. What evidence do I have they'll find me boring? None. I haven't even talked to them yet. What's most likely to happen? We'll have a brief, polite conversation. Even if they do want to end the conversation, that's normal. People end conversations all the time. I'll simply excuse myself gracefully. See how that works? You've taken a catastrophic thought spiral and brought it back to manageable reality. Your nervous system responds by calming down because you've shown your brain there's actually no real threat. Combining breath and mental reset. Now let's put these 2 tools together in a comprehensive technique you can use immediately before and during any social interaction. I call this the Calm Entry Protocol. The Calm Entry Protocol, 5 minutes before. 5 minutes before the interaction, find a quiet space. Bathroom, your car, outside, wherever you can have a moment alone. Do 4 complete cycles of 478 breathing. Then do the mental reset. Notice what anxious thoughts are present. Name them. Then redirect each one with reality testing. After you've completed this, do one more powerful technique, visualization with calm embodiment. Close your eyes and visualize the interaction going well. But here's the key, don't just see it in your mind. Feel it in your body. Imagine your shoulders relaxed. Your breathing steady. Your voice calm and clear. Your face expressing genuine warmth. Spend 30 seconds living in that feeling state. What you're doing is creating a neural pathway. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between vivid imagination and reality. When you imagine yourself calm and successful, you're literally rehearsing that state. Then when you enter the actual interaction, your brain recognizes the pattern and more easily accesses that calm state. During the interaction, micro resets. You won't always have 5 minutes. Sometimes anxiety spikes during an interaction. Here's your in-the-moment technique. Extend your exhales while maintaining natural breathing rhythm. If you can, incorporate subtle physical grounding. Press your feet into the floor. Feel the chair beneath you. Touch a solid object. This brings you into your body and the present moment. Use mini mental resets. When you notice anxious thoughts starting, internally say thought or anxiety as a label, then bring your attention back to what the other person is saying. Not fighting the anxiety, just acknowledging it and refocusing. Think of it like a gentle redirection rather than a forceful suppression. Redirecting anxious thoughts. Let's go deeper into the mind management aspect. Anxious thoughts about social situations typically fall into specific categories, and each has a specific redirection strategy. Category 1, Catastrophic Predictions. These thoughts sound like, I'm going to embarrass myself, or this will be a disaster, or they'll think I'm stupid. These are your mind's attempt to prepare for the worst, but they're rarely realistic. The redirection strategy is probability checking. Ask yourself, what percentage chances there this will actually happen? Be honest. Usually, the realistic probability is low. Then ask, how many times have I had this fear before, and how many times has the catastrophic outcome actually occurred? This historical data usually shows your fears almost never materialize. Replace the catastrophic thought with a realistic one. Instead of "I'm going to embarrass myself," try "I might feel a little awkward," which is completely normal and temporary. Instead of "this will be a disaster," try "this will probably be okay, and even if it's not great, it's not a disaster. It's just one interaction." Category 2, Mind Reading. These thoughts sound like, "They think I'm boring," or "They don't want to talk to me," or "They're judging me." Unless you're actually psychic, you don't know what others are thinking. Your anxious brain is projecting its fears onto them. The redirection strategy is evidence-based thinking. Ask yourself, what actual evidence do I have for what they're thinking? Distinguish between facts and interpretations. Fact: they glanced at their phone. Interpretation: they're bored by me. See the difference? You've jumped from an observable behavior to an assumed internal state. Replace mind reading with curiosity. Instead of "they think I'm boring," try "I don't know what they're thinking. I can find out by engaging authentically." Instead of "they're judging me," try "everyone has their own thoughts and concerns. Most people are more focused on themselves than on judging me." Category 3, Self-criticism. These thoughts sound like, "I'm so awkward," or "I'm terrible at this," or "there's something wrong with me." These are internalized judgments that feel like truth but are actually just harsh opinions. The redirection strategy is compassionate reframing. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend. If your friend said, "I'm terrible at socializing," would you agree? Or would you say something like, "You're learning. Everyone finds this challenging sometimes. You're doing your best." Replace self-criticism with self-compassion. Instead of "I'm so awkward," try "I'm feeling awkward right now," which is a temporary feeling, not a permanent identity. Instead of "there's something wrong with me," try "I'm a normal person who experiences social anxiety sometimes, just like millions of other people." The thought journal practice. Here's a powerful exercise to do over the next few weeks. After any social interaction, especially ones that triggered anxiety, take 5 minutes to journal. Write down the anxious thoughts you had before or during the interaction. Next to each one, write what actually happened. Over time, you'll build undeniable evidence that your anxious predictions are almost always wrong. This isn't just a psychological trick. You're literally retraining your brain. When your amygdala starts firing anxious predictions, your prefrontal cortex can reference this accumulated evidence and say, "We've been through this before. Those predictions aren't reliable. We're actually safe." Physical grounding techniques. Your mind and body are inseparable. Sometimes the fastest way to calm your mind is through your body. Let me give you several physical grounding techniques you can use anywhere, anytime. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique. This is a sensory grounding exercise that pulls you out of anxious thoughts and into present reality. When you notice anxiety rising, identify 5 things you can see. Look around and consciously name them. 4 things you can touch. Reach out and actually touch them. Notice the texture. 3 things you can hear. Listen carefully. 2 things you can smell. Even if it's just the air or your clothing. 1 thing you can taste. Maybe a lingering taste or just the inside of your mouth. This technique works because anxiety lives in the future or past. You're worried about what might happen or replaying what did happen. Sensory awareness forces you into the present moment, where you're actually safe. Progressive muscle relaxation. Tension and anxiety live in your muscles. Your shoulders rise toward your ears. Your jaw clenches. Your hands form fists. You can interrupt this pattern deliberately. Starting with your toes, tense them tightly for 5 seconds, then release completely. Feel the difference. Move up to your calves, same thing. Tense for 5 seconds, release. Continue through your entire body, thighs, glutes, stomach, chest, hands, arms, shoulders, neck, face. The key is noticing the contrast between tension and relaxation. Most people walk around holding tension they're not even aware of. This exercise brings awareness and then releases it. The physical reset breath. Combine breathing with physical release. Stand or sit up straight. Raise your arms overhead as you inhale slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts, arms still raised. As you exhale for 8 counts, lower your arms in a sweeping motion and release all tension. Repeat 3 times. This combines the breathing technique we learned with physical movement and symbolic release. You're literally embodying the act of letting go. Real-life application scenarios. Let me walk you through complete scenarios showing exactly how to apply these techniques in different social situations. Scenario 1, the job interview. You're in the waiting room. Anxiety is building. Heart racing. Hands sweating. Thoughts spiraling, I'm going to mess this up. They'll see I'm nervous. I'll forget everything I plan to say. You implement the calm entry protocol. For cycles of 4-7-8 breathing. Anxiety level drops noticeably. You do the mental reset. Name it, interview anxiety. Redirect, I'm prepared. I've researched the company. Even if I'm a bit nervous, that's normal. Nervousness shows I care. Most likely outcome, a professional conversation where I demonstrate my qualifications. You visualize yourself walking in confidently, shaking hands firmly, making comfortable eye contact, answering questions clearly. You feel it in your body. When they call your name, you stand, take one grounding breath, and walk in. During the interview, you notice anxiety starting when they ask a difficult question. You subtly extend your exhales while thinking through your answer. You press your feet into the floor, grounding yourself. You respond thoughtfully. Scenario 2. Approaching someone attractive. You see someone you're interested in at a coffee shop. Immediate anxiety spike. Catastrophic thoughts, they're out of my league. They'll reject me. I'll make a fool of myself. Pause. 1-4-7-8 breath. Name it, attraction anxiety. Redirect with reality, I don't know if they're interested. The only way to find out is to say hello. Most people are flattered by friendly approaches. Worst realistic case, they're not interested and politely decline. That's okay. It doesn't mean anything about my worth. You do a brief physical reset. Shake out your arms subtly. Roll your shoulders back. You imagine walking up calmly, smiling genuinely, saying a simple opener about something in the environment. You feel confident in your body. You approach. Midway, anxiety tries to spike again. This is a mistake. You redirect, this is courage. You arrive, make eye contact, smile, and open naturally. Whether they're interested or not, you're proud of yourself for facing the fear. Scenario 3, speaking in a group. You're in a meeting. You have something to say but anxiety is stopping you. Heart pounding. Everyone will look at me. What if I sound stupid? What if my voice shakes? While others are talking, you use the time to breathe. Extended exhales. No one notices. You ground yourself by pressing your feet firmly into the floor and feeling the chair beneath you. Mental reset. Speaking anxiety. I have a valuable contribution. People want to hear different perspectives. If my voice shakes slightly, that's human. Most likely outcome, I share my idea, some people engage with it, we move on. When there's a pause in conversation, you don't wait for the anxiety to pass because it won't. You speak anyway. I have a thought on that. Your voice is steadier than you expected because you've already regulated your nervous system. Even if there's a slight tremor, you continue. Anxiety peaks for about 10 seconds, then drops as you realize you're not dying and people are actually listening. Building long-term resilience. These techniques work immediately, but they become exponentially more powerful with practice. Think of your nervous system regulation ability like a muscle. Every time you use these techniques, you're strengthening it. Start a daily practice, even just 5 minutes. Each morning, do 4 cycles of 4-7-8 breathing, not because you're anxious, but as preventive maintenance. This trains your vagus nerve and makes the technique more automatic when you need it during stressful moments. Practice the mental reset with small anxieties, not just big ones. Worried about being late? Use the technique. Concerned about a text you sent? Use the technique. The more you practice redirecting small anxious thoughts, the better you become at handling large ones. Gradually expose yourself to situations that make you anxious. This is called systematic desensitization. Start small. If group conversations are terrifying, start by speaking up once in a small meeting. Use your techniques to stay calm. Gradually increase the challenge. Your brain learns through repeated experience that these situations are survivable, and eventually, it stops triggering such strong fear responses. The deeper truth about anxiety. I want to close with something important. The goal isn't to never feel anxious. Anxiety is a normal human emotion. It provides useful information about what matters to you. You feel anxious about social interactions because connection matters to you. That's actually beautiful. The goal is to feel anxiety without it controlling you. To notice it, regulate it, and act despite it. Every single socially confident person you admire still experiences anxiety sometimes. The difference is they've learned to move through it rather than being stopped by it. You now have a complete toolkit, understanding of your nervous system, the breathing technique to activate calm physiologically, the mental reset to manage anxious thoughts, specific redirection strategies for different thought patterns, physical grounding techniques, and real-world application protocols. Take one final breath with me now. Deep inhale. Hold. Long, slow exhale. You're not broken. You're not uniquely flawed. You're a human being with a sensitive nervous system learning to work with it skillfully. That's growth. That's courage. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to maintain genuine conversations that flow naturally, but you now have the foundation, the ability to stay calm within yourself regardless of external circumstances. Practice these techniques. Be patient with yourself. And watch how your capacity for calm presence expands. Chapter 4: Effortless Conversation Techniques. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts, hold it gently for 2, and release through your mouth for 6 counts. Feel your shoulders drop. Good. This chapter is about something that might feel complicated right now, but I promise you, by the time we're done here, conversation will feel less like a performance and more like a natural flow you can step into anytime. Let's talk about effortless conversation. Not perfect conversation. Not impressive conversation. Effortless. Because the goal here isn't to become someone who always knows what to say. The goal is to become someone who feels comfortable not knowing, and who trusts themselves to figure it out in the moment. The truth about conversation anxiety. Before we dive into techniques, I want you to understand something that changed everything for me. Most people think conversation anxiety comes from not knowing what to say. But that's not quite right. Conversation anxiety comes from believing that what you say needs to be interesting, clever, or worthy of attention. It comes from the story that you're being evaluated with every sentence. Think about the last time you talked to a close friend. Did you rehearse? Did you worry about being boring? Probably not. You just talked. You responded naturally. You laughed at random things. You interrupted each other. You said and like and lost your train of thought, and it was all completely fine. The difference between talking to a close friend and talking to someone new isn't your conversation skills. It's your internal pressure. With your friend, you've already decided you're safe. With someone new, you haven't given yourself that permission yet. So here's the first technique, and it's not really a technique at all. It's a decision. Before you even open your mouth, decide that this conversation doesn't determine your worth. Decide that awkward pauses are normal. Decide that you're allowed to be a regular human being who sometimes searches for words or says something that lands flat. Make that decision now, before we go any further. Let me give you a breathing exercise you can use right before a conversation, especially one that makes you nervous. It's called the confidence breath reset. The confidence breath reset. Find a quiet moment, even if it's just in the bathroom or outside the venue. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts, letting your belly expand first, then your chest. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale through your mouth for 6 counts, feeling your chest lower first, then your belly. Repeat 3 times. On the last exhale, consciously release the thought, "I need to impress anyone." On the next inhale, consciously invite in the thought, "I'm enough as I am." This isn't just relaxation. You're literally regulating your nervous system. When you extend your exhale beyond your inhale, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms your fight or flight response. You're telling your body, "We're safe." We can be curious instead of defensive. How to start conversations without overthinking. Let's get practical. You're at a coffee shop, a networking event, a party, or even just waiting in line. You want to start a conversation, but your mind goes blank or floods with options. Which opening is best? What if they don't want to talk? What if you sound stupid? Here's what actually works: environmental comments and genuine curiosity. An environmental comment is just noticing something in your shared reality and mentioning it. That's it. No cleverness required. Real examples. This line is longer than I expected. Have you tried anything here before? I can never decide. That's an interesting book. What's it about? I love that jacket. Where'd you find it? This event is bigger than I thought it would be. Notice what these have in common. They're all true. They're all easy to respond to. They're all low pressure. You're not asking the person to perform or be interesting. You're just acknowledging reality together. But here's where most people stumble. They make the comment and then panic about what comes next. So let me introduce you to something I call the interest loop method. This is the backbone of effortless conversation, and once you understand it, you'll never feel stuck again. The interest loop method. The interest loop method is based on a simple truth from social psychology: people love talking about themselves, their experiences, and their perspectives, but only when they feel genuinely heard. Your job isn't to be interesting. Your job is to be interested. Here's how it works. Every conversation is a loop with 3 parts. 1. Observation/statement. You notice something or share something simple. 2. Open-ended question. You invite them to expand based on what they just said. 3. Active acknowledgement. You show you heard them by reflecting, relating, or deepening. Then the loop starts again. Let me show you this in action. Example 1, coffee shop. This line is longer than I expected. Observation. Them. Yeah, it's always packed on weekends. Do you come here a lot? Open-ended question. Them, pretty much every Saturday. It's my little routine. I love that. Having a routine spot makes the whole week feel better, doesn't it? Active acknowledgement plus relation. Them, exactly. It's like my reset button. What do you usually get? Loop continues. Notice what didn't happen. You didn't try to be funny. You didn't share a story about your coffee preferences. You didn't make it about you at all. You just stayed curious and let the conversation build naturally. Example 2, networking event. I'm always curious what brings people to these things. Observation plus question. Them, honestly, my friend dragged me here. But I'm trying to meet more people in the design world. Design? That's awesome. What kind of design? Open-ended question. Them, UX design, mostly. I work on mobile apps. That's fascinating. I feel like UX is so invisible when it's done well and so obvious when it's not. Active acknowledgement. Them, yes. That's exactly it. We're like the invisible hand. You, what's the most frustrating thing people don't understand about what you do? Deepening question. See how the conversation isn't work? You're not searching for clever things to say. You're just following their lead, showing interest, and asking the next logical question. The interest loop keeps itself going. The science behind why this works. Let me take you into the psychology for a moment, because when you understand why this works, you'll trust it more. In social psychology, there's a concept called perceived responsiveness. Research by psychologist Dr. Harry Rees shows that people feel most connected to others who make them feel understood, validated, and cared for. Not impressed. Not entertained. Understood. When you ask genuine questions and acknowledge someone's experience, you're creating what psychologists call conversational reciprocity. The person you're talking to begins to mirror your interest. They start asking you questions back, not because they have to, but because you've created a safe, engaging dynamic. There's also something called the self-reference effect. This is our tendency to remember and process information better when it relates to ourselves. When you let someone talk about their own experiences, they're literally in their cognitive comfort zone. Their brain lights up. They feel good. And they associate that good feeling with you. This is why being interested is more powerful than being interesting. You're not performing. You're creating space for connection. Asking questions that make people feel understood. Not all questions are created equal. Some questions shut down conversation. Others open it up like a flower. Closed questions, questions that can be answered with yes, no, or one word, are fine for gathering information, but they don't create depth. Did you like it? Are you from here? Is this your first time? Open-ended questions invite stories, feelings, and perspectives. What did you think of it? What brought you to this area? How are you finding this so far? But there's an even more powerful category, reflective and empathetic questions. These are questions that show you're not just collecting facts. You're connecting with their experience. Examples. That sounds intense. How did you handle that? What was that like for you? What do you wish more people understood about that? How did that change things for you? What surprised you most? These questions work because they signal safety. You're not interrogating. You're inviting. There's a huge difference. Let me give you a real scenario to practice this. Imagine you're at a friend's birthday party. You don't know most people there. You start talking to someone near the drinks table. How do you know the birthday person? Standard opener. Them, we went to college together. Haven't seen her in a few years, actually. Now, here's where most people would say something like cool or nice and then panic about what comes next. Instead, loop. That's special that you made it out after a few years. What made you want to reconnect? Reflective question. Them, honestly, I've been thinking a lot about old friendships lately. Life got so busy and I realized I was losing touch with people I actually care about. I think a lot of people feel that. It's like we get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to reach out. Acknowledgement plus normalizing. Them, exactly. I didn't want to be one of those people who wakes up at 40 and realizes they have no real friends. That's a real fear. Are you doing anything differently now? Like, practically? Deepening question. See how the conversation went from surface level to meaningful in just a few exchanges? You didn't force it. You just stayed present and curious. Maintaining conversations, the art of building momentum. Starting conversations is one thing. Keeping them going is another. Here's what usually happens: the conversation flows for a bit, then hits a lull. Silence. Panic. Someone checks their phone. It dies. But silence isn't the enemy. Abrupt topic changes are. When a conversation lulls, most people try to rescue it by throwing out a completely new topic. So, got any plans for the weekend? This can work, but it often feels jarring, like you've just admitted the previous conversation wasn't worth continuing. Instead, use bridges and callbacks. A bridge is when you connect what was just said to something related but slightly different. Them, so yeah, that's why I started running. You. That makes sense. Do you run outside or do you prefer gyms? Bridge from running to environment preference. Or, that's cool. Have you noticed it changing how you feel day to day, or is it more just physical? Bridge from activity to impact. A callback is when you reference something they mentioned earlier in the conversation. 10 minutes later, you mentioned you started running to clear your head. Have you found other things that do that for you? Callbacks are powerful because they show you were actually listening. They make people feel seen. And they revive a conversation that might be losing energy by bringing back an earlier thread. Real-life scenario walkthrough, the awkward coworker lunch. Let's walk through a common scenario. You're having lunch with a coworker you don't know well. Maybe it's your first week at the job, or maybe you're just trying to expand your social circle at work. You're sitting across from each other. Here's how to make it effortless. Step 1, start with context. Don't dive into deep questions immediately. Start where you are. You, how's your day been so far? Them, busy. Lots of meetings. Step 2, validate and expand. You, I feel that. Some days it's like you're just going from call to call. Validation. Pause. Don't rush. Let them respond. Them, yeah, and I feel like I barely get real work done. Step 3, use the interest loop. You, that's frustrating. What's the real work for you? Like, when you're actually in the zone? Open-ended question. Them, honestly, when I'm just working on designs. No feedback loops, no revisions. Just creating. You, that sounds really satisfying. What kind of designs are you working on right now? Deepening. And now you're in. You're not forcing anything. You're just being present and curious. Step 4, share selectively. At some point, they'll ask you something back. When they do, share, but keep it concise. Don't monologue. Match their energy. Them, what about you? What do you like most about the job so far? You, I think I'm still figuring it out, honestly. But I really like the people I'm meeting. Everyone's been welcoming. Them, that's good. It took me a while to feel settled in. You, yeah? How long have you been here? Loop back to them. Notice how you shared, but immediately brought the focus back to them? This keeps momentum without making it about you. Transitioning conversations. Moving between topics gracefully. One of the most overlooked skills in conversation is knowing how to transition between topics without it feeling awkward. You're talking about one thing, it's going well, but it's run its course. What now? Here are 3 smooth transition techniques. 1. The summary transition. You wrap up the current topic with a brief summary, then pivot. You, it sounds like you've really built a good routine for yourself with that. I'm curious, outside of work, what do you do to unwind? 2. The contrast transition. You acknowledge the current topic, then move to something contrasting. You, this has been pretty serious talk. On a lighter note, have you caught any good shows lately? 3. The tangent transition. You pick up on a small detail they mentioned and expand it. Them, and that's why I ended up moving here from Seattle. You, Seattle. I've always wanted to visit. What do you miss most about it? Transitions don't need to be seamless. They just need to feel intentional. People won't judge you for changing topics. They'll appreciate that you're guiding the conversation somewhere new. Avoiding overthinking while talking. Here's the trap. You're in a conversation. It's going fine. But in your head, you're not really there. You're monitoring yourself. Was that weird? Should I have said something else? Do they think I'm boring? What should I say next? This is what I call the commentary track problem. You're not experiencing the conversation. You're commentating on it. And when you do that, you can't actually be present. Overthinking while talking comes from trying to control the outcome. You want the conversation to go a certain way. You want them to like you. You want to seem smart or funny or interesting. And all of that pulls you out of the moment. Here's how to stop. Technique 1, the redirect. When you notice yourself overthinking, mentally say, "That's just my brain. I'm going back to listening." Don't fight the thought. Acknowledge it and redirect your attention to the other person's face, their words, their energy. You're not trying to empty your mind. You're just choosing where to put your focus. Technique 2, the body anchor. Ground yourself in physical sensation. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice the temperature of the room. Feel your breath moving in and out. This pulls you out of your head and into the present. You can do this while the other person is talking. They won't notice. But you'll feel more centered. Technique 3, embrace the pause. When you don't know what to say next, pause. Don't fill the silence with filler words or nervous laughter. Just pause, breathe, and let the next thought come. Pauses aren't awkward unless you treat them like they are. If you pause with confidence, people interpret it as thoughtfulness. Let me teach you one more breathing technique specifically for calming your mind mid-conversation. The in-the-moment breath, invisible technique. While the other person is talking, take a slow, silent breath in through your nose for 3 counts. Hold gently for 1 count. Release slowly and quietly through your nose for 4 counts. Do this once or twice whenever you feel your mind racing. This regulates your nervous system without anyone noticing. Practical application. The 7-Day Conversation Challenge. Here's how you integrate everything we've talked about. I'm going to give you a 7-day challenge. Each day, you practice one element. Day 1, environmental openers. Goal, start 3 conversations using environmental comments. Coffee shop, grocery store, anywhere. Just notice something and say it. Don't worry about where it goes. Day 2, the interest loop. Goal, in at least one conversation today, consciously use the interest loop. Observe, ask an open question, acknowledge, repeat. Day 3, reflective questions. Goal, ask at least 2 reflective questions today. What was that like for you? How did that change things? Notice how people respond differently. Day 4, callbacks. Goal, in a conversation, reference something the person said earlier. Watch how their face lights up when they realize you were really listening. Day 5, transitions. Goal, practice moving between topics smoothly. Use one of the 3 transition techniques we covered. Day 6, embrace pauses. Goal, when you don't know what to say, pause instead of filling the silence. Count to 3 in your head. Then speak. Day 7, full integration. Goal, have a conversation using all of the techniques. Start with an environmental comment, use the interest loop, ask reflective questions, make callbacks, transition smoothly, and embrace pauses when needed. By day 7, these won't feel like techniques anymore. They'll feel like how you naturally talk. Common mistakes and how to fix them. Let me address the mistakes I see most often, because knowing what not to do is just as important. Mistake 1, interview mode. You ask question after question without sharing anything about yourself. The other person starts to feel interrogated. Fix, after every 2 or 3 questions, offer a brief related thought or experience. Balance curiosity with vulnerability. Mistake 2, story hijacking. They share something, and you immediately jump in with your own story. Oh yeah, that happened to me too, and... Fix, acknowledge their experience first. That sounds really challenging. Pause. Then, if it's relevant, you can share. But make sure you come back to them. Mistake 3, advice giving. They share a problem, and you immediately try to solve it. Most of the time, people don't want advice. They want to be heard. Fix. Before offering advice, ask, do you want thoughts on that, or are you just venting? This simple question changes everything. Mistake 4, topic hopping. You change subjects too quickly because you're afraid the conversation is getting boring. Fix, stay with a topic longer than feels comfortable. People often open up more when you don't rush past something. The deeper truth about effortless conversation. Here's what I really want you to take away from this chapter. Effortless conversation isn't about technique. Technique just gives you a structure when you feel lost. But at its core, effortless conversation is about trust. You trust that you're enough as you are. You trust that silence is okay. You trust that people generally want connection just as much as you do. You trust that even if a conversation doesn't go perfectly, you're still fine. When you operate from that place of trust, people feel it. They relax around you. They open up. They enjoy talking to you, not because you're performing, but because you've made it safe for both of you to just be human together. Think about the people you feel most comfortable talking to. What do? Chances are, they listen well. They don't judge. They're present. They make you feel like what you're saying matters. That's not a skill they learned. It's a way of being they've cultivated. You can cultivate that too. Your homework, the reflection practice. Before we close this chapter, I want to give you one final practice. After every significant conversation, take 2 minutes and ask yourself 3 questions. What went well? Even if it's just I started the conversation or I asked one good question. What did I learn about the other person? This keeps you focused on them, not your performance. What would I do differently next time? Not from a place of criticism, but curiosity. Write it down. Keep a small journal if you can. Over time, you'll notice patterns. You'll see yourself improving. You'll start trusting yourself more. Closing thoughts. Effortless conversation is possible. Not because you've memorized the perfect things to say, but because you've let go of the need to be perfect. You've embraced curiosity over cleverness. You've chosen presence over performance. The techniques in this chapter are tools. Use them when you need them. But more importantly, use them until you don't need them anymore. Until conversation just becomes something you do, naturally and easily, without all the mental commentary. You've got this. Not because I said so, but because you're willing to practice, to be uncomfortable, to try. Now take one more deep breath with me. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Feel that? That's you, grounded, ready, enough. Let's move forward. Chapter 5. Becoming someone people feel comfortable around. Let's start with a truth that might surprise you. The most memorable people aren't the loudest, the funniest, or even the most interesting. They're the ones who make you feel comfortable. They're the ones who, after spending time with them, make you feel better about yourself. Think about someone in your life who has this quality. When you're around them, you relax. You don't feel judged. You feel seen. You can be yourself without pretending. That's not an accident. That's a skill. And it's a skill you can develop. Before we go further, let's ground ourselves together. Close your eyes if you can, or soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in through your nose for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it gently for 2, and now release slowly through your mouth for 6 counts. Feel your jaw unclench. Feel your shoulders drop away from your ears. Good. This chapter is about becoming that person. The one people feel comfortable around. Not by performing or pretending, but by cultivating a genuine presence that combines warmth and confidence in a way that feels natural. The warmth and confidence balance. Here's something most people get wrong about social connection. They think you need to choose either be warm and friendly, which can sometimes read as insecure or eager to please, or be confident and composed, which can sometimes read as cold or distant. But the truth is, you need both. And they don't contradict each other. In fact, they enhance each other. Warmth without confidence can feel like neediness. You're friendly, but you're constantly seeking validation. You laugh too quickly at others' jokes. You agree too easily. You're afraid to take up space or express a different opinion. Confidence without warmth can feel like arrogance. You're self-assured, but you don't make others feel valued. You dominate conversations. You're more interested in being right than being connected. Warmth plus confidence is magnetic. You're self-assured enough to be relaxed, and warm enough to make others feel welcome. You can hold boundaries without being harsh. You can express opinions without diminishing others. You can take up space while making room for others too. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. The science of social warmth and competence. In social psychology, there's a model called the stereotype content model, developed by researchers Susan Fiske and Amy Cuddy. It suggests that when we first meet someone, we unconsciously assess them on two dimensions, warmth and competence. Warmth answers the question, what are this person's intentions toward me? Are they friend or foe? Competence answers, can this person act on those intentions? Are they capable and effective? When someone scores high on both warmth and competence, we trust them. We like them. We want to be around them. When someone is high in one but low in the other, we're ambivalent. And when they're low in both, we avoid them. The beautiful thing is that you can consciously cultivate both qualities. Let me show you how. Cultivating warmth, the small signals that matter. Warmth isn't about being bubbly or extroverted. It's about showing openness, kindness, and genuine interest in others. And most of it is communicated non-verbally. The micro-behaviors of warmth. Eye contact with softness. When you look at someone, don't stare intensely. That can feel aggressive. Instead, maintain eye contact with a soft focus, as if you're looking at them with kindness. Smile with your eyes. Let your gaze be present but gentle. Practice right now, even if you're alone. Think of someone you care about. Now imagine looking at them. Feel how your eyes naturally soften. That's the quality you want to bring to your interactions. The genuine smile. A real smile involves your whole face, especially your eyes. It's called a Duchenne smile, and people can tell the difference between a real smile and a social mask. You can't fake it consistently, but you can cultivate the mindset that creates it, genuine curiosity and appreciation for the person in front of you. Open body language. Uncross your arms. Turn your body toward the person you're talking to. Lean in slightly when they're speaking. These micro-adjustments signal, I'm here. I'm open. I'm interested. The power of names. Use people's names in conversation, but not excessively. That's a great point. Marcus feels warm and personal. Marcus, you know what Marcus, I think Marcus. Feels forced. Once or twice in a conversation is perfect. Vocal warmth. Your tone matters more than your words. Even a simple how are you can sound cold or warm depending on how you say it. Slow down slightly. Let your voice carry genuine curiosity. Avoid the upward inflection that sounds uncertain. Instead, let your voice stay steady and kind. Warmth practice exercise. Here's a daily practice that will transform how people experience you. Every morning, before you leave your space, stand in front of a mirror. Take 3 deep breaths. Then say out loud, today, I choose to see others with kindness. It sounds simple, even silly. But it's a powerful intention-setting practice. You're priming your brain to look for the good in people, which naturally makes you warmer. Cultivating confidence, the inner foundation. Now let's talk about confidence. Real confidence isn't about pretending you know everything or never feeling uncertain. It's about being comfortable with yourself, including your uncertainties. The components of quiet confidence. Body posture. Stand or sit with your spine straight but not rigid. Imagine a string gently pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Let your shoulders be back and down. Plant your feet firmly on the ground. This isn't about puffing yourself up. It's about taking up the space you're entitled to without apology. Steady speech. Confident people don't rush their words. They don't fill every silence. Practice speaking 20% slower than feels natural. Pause between sentences. Let your words land before moving to the next thought. This feels uncomfortable at first, but it signals that you trust what you're saying is worth hearing. Decisive energy. When someone asks, "Where do you want to eat?" don't respond with, "I don't know," wherever you want. Even if you truly don't care, offer a suggestion, "I'm thinking Italian." How does that sound to you? You're not being controlling. You're being helpful. You're making decisions easier. Comfortable with disagreement. Confident people can hold different opinions without needing to convince everyone they're right. You can say, "I see it differently," without invalidating the other person. You can disagree and still be warm. Boundaries without apology. When you need to say no or set a boundary, do it clearly and kindly. "I can't make it tonight, but I appreciate the invitation." Not, "I'm so sorry, I wish I could, I feel terrible, maybe another time?" Excessive apologizing dilutes your presence. The confidence breath technique. Here's a breathing practice specifically designed to build internal confidence before entering any social situation. It's called the power pause breath. Power pause breath. Find a private moment before the interaction: bathroom, your car, outside the building. Stand with feet hip width apart, grounded. Inhale deeply through your nose for 5 counts, filling your belly first, then your chest. At the top of the inhale, pause and hold for 3 counts while thinking, "I am capable." Exhale slowly through your mouth for 7 counts, releasing any tension. At the bottom of the exhale, pause for 2 counts while thinking, "I am enough." Repeat this cycle 3 times. Notice how your body feels more stable, your mind clearer. This technique combines physiological regulation with cognitive priming. You're not just calming your nervous system. You're reinforcing core beliefs about your competence. The integration, warmth plus confidence in real scenarios. Let's walk through some real-life situations and see how warmth and confidence work together. Scenario 1, meeting a friend's friends. You're at a gathering where you only know the host. Everyone else knows each other. This is typically an anxiety-provoking situation. Warmth approach alone. You might laugh nervously, overcompliment people, ask too many questions, hover around your friend. Confidence approach alone, you might stand apart, wait for people to approach you, keep your responses brief, seem aloof. Warmth plus confidence integration. Enter the space with open body language, warmth. Introduce yourself without waiting for your friend to do it, confidence. "Hi, I'm name. I'm friends with host. How do you all know each other?" Warm question. Listen actively, make eye contact, smile genuinely, warmth. Share a brief story about yourself when appropriate without dominating, confidence. Excuse yourself when you want to, without over-explaining, confidence with warmth. Scenario 2, job interview. Warmth alone, you might focus too much on being likable, agree with everything, undersell yourself to seem humble. Confidence alone, you might oversell, talk over the interviewer, not build rapport. Warmth plus confidence. Greet the interviewer with a genuine smile and firm handshake, both. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. I'm excited to learn more about the role." Warmth. When asked about your qualifications, state them clearly without hedging. "I've successfully managed teams of 10 people and increased efficiency by 30%. Confidence. When asked about weaknesses, be honest but frame it constructively. "I'm working on delegating more effectively. I tend to want to handle everything myself, but I'm learning to trust my team more." Warmth through vulnerability, confidence through self-awareness. Ask thoughtful questions about the role and company culture, warmth through interest, confidence through engagement. Scenario 3, First Date. Warmth alone might seem overeager, laugh at everything, avoid any disagreement, put the other person on a pedestal. Confidence alone might seem disinterested, talk mostly about yourself, treat it like an evaluation. Warmth plus confidence. Arrive on time, greet them warmly, both. Ask genuine questions about their life. What's been the highlight of your week? Warmth. Share about yourself honestly when asked, including imperfections. I tried cooking a new recipe last night and absolutely destroyed it. Ended up ordering pizza. Confidence through comfort with imperfection. If there's a natural lull, don't panic. Smile and say, I'm enjoying this. Should we order? Confidence in the silence, warmth in the reassurance. Express interest clearly if you feel it. I've had a really nice time. I'd like to do this again. Confidence plus warmth. Notice in all these scenarios, warmth and confidence aren't opposing forces. They're complementary. Warmth without confidence can make you seem uncertain. Confidence without warmth can make you seem unapproachable. Together, they create presence. Showing authenticity without oversharing. Let's talk about a tricky balance, being authentic while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Authenticity is magnetic. When you're genuine, people sense it. They trust you more. But oversharing can make people uncomfortable and damage the connection you're trying to build. The authenticity spectrum. Think of sharing on a spectrum from completely closed to completely open. Neither extreme works well. Too closed, you share nothing personal. You deflect every question about yourself. You keep every conversation surface level. People can't connect with you because they don't know you. Too open, you share intensely personal information too quickly. Trauma stories on a first meeting. Detailed relationship problems with someone you just met. This overwhelms people and creates awkward intimacy they didn't consent to. Authentic and appropriate, you share incrementally. You match the depth of the relationship. You're honest but boundaried. The principle of reciprocal disclosure. In psychology, there's a concept called reciprocal disclosure. People tend to match the level of personal information being shared. If you share something moderately personal, they'll likely share something similar back. If you share something very deep, they might feel pressured or uncomfortable. The key is to gradually increase depth as trust builds. Early interaction, first few conversations. Share your interests, what you do, light preferences, general opinions. I love hiking. There's something about being in nature that clears my head. Avoid trauma, deep insecurities, relationship problems, controversial views. Developing connection after several positive interactions. Share challenges you're working through, meaningful experiences, values that matter to you. I've been trying to be better about work-life balance. I used to stay late every night, and I realized I was burning out. Avoid details that would make them feel burdened or responsible for your well-being. Deeper friendship, establish trust. Share vulnerabilities, fears, past difficulties, things you're struggling with. I've been thinking a lot about my relationship with my dad lately. We've never been close, and I'm not sure how to bridge that gap. Avoid using them as your therapist. Even close friends need boundaries. The authentic pause technique. Before sharing something personal, practice the authentic pause. Mentally ask yourself, why am I sharing this? To connect or to offload? Is this appropriate for the level of relationship we have? Will this bring us closer or make them uncomfortable? If the answer to number 1 is to connect, number 2 is yes, and number 3 is bring us closer, share it. If not, hold back or share a lighter version. Example. Instead of, my ex really messed me up. I have trust issues now and I'm in therapy trying to work through it all. Try, I'm learning a lot about myself lately. Working through some old patterns. It's been really helpful. Same authenticity. More boundaried. Less overwhelming. Real life oversharing, what it looks like and how to avoid it. Let me give you concrete examples of oversharing versus authentic sharing. Situation: someone asks, "How are you?" Oversharing: honestly, terrible. I didn't sleep at all. I'm so anxious about this presentation, and my boss has been really critical lately, and I got into a fight with my partner this morning. Authentic: a bit stressed, actually. Big presentation coming up. But I'm managing. How about you? Situation: someone asks about your weekend. Oversharing: it was rough. I had a panic attack on Saturday and spent most of Sunday in bed feeling depressed. I really need to get back on my medication, but I keep forgetting to call my doctor. Authentic: it was quiet. I needed some downtime. Did you do anything fun? Situation: new coworker asks why you left your last job. Oversharing: my manager was toxic. She micromanaged everything and gave me constant criticism. I developed anxiety and my therapist told me I needed to leave for my mental health. Authentic: I was ready for a new challenge. The role had become pretty routine, and I wanted to work somewhere with more growth opportunities. See the difference? Authentic sharing is honest but boundaried. You're not lying. You're just not dumping everything on someone who didn't ask for that level of intimacy. The vulnerability sweet spot. There is a sweet spot where vulnerability deepens connection without overwhelming. It's when you share something real but manageable. Something that shows you're human but not falling apart. Examples of sweet spot vulnerability. I'm not great at this yet, but I'm learning. That hit me harder than I expected. I'm proud of myself for trying, even though it didn't work out. I have to remind myself sometimes that it's okay to ask for help. I'm working on being more patient with myself. These statements are honest. They're relatable. They invite connection. But they're not heavy. They're not asking the other person to fix you or carry your burden. How to leave a great impression effortlessly. Let's talk about the lasting impression you leave. Not the impression you force or fabricate, but the one that naturally emerges when you're being your best self. The last interaction effect. Research in social psychology shows that people remember most strongly how an interaction ends. This is called the recency effect. Your last few moments together disproportionately shape their overall memory of the encounter. This doesn't mean you need to orchestrate a grand exit. It means you should be intentional about how you say goodbye. The 3-part exit. Express genuine appreciation. I really enjoyed talking with you. This was great. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm glad we got to connect. Make it specific if possible. I loved hearing about your trip to Japan. The story about the tea ceremony was fascinating. Offer continuity, if appropriate. We should do this again sometime. I'd love to continue this conversation. Can I get your contact info? Let me know if you ever want to grab coffee. Only offer if you mean it. Empty promises feel worse than no promise at all. Leave with warmth. Smile. Make eye contact. If appropriate, offer a handshake or friendly touch on the arm. Leave them feeling good. The follow-up, the impression that lasts. If you exchanged contact information, follow up within 48 hours. Not because there's a rule, but because it shows you valued the connection. Good follow-up message. Hey, name, it was great meeting you yesterday. I've been thinking about what you said about specific thing. Would love to continue the conversation sometime. Hope you have a great week. This is warm, specific, and low pressure. You're not demanding their time. You're expressing interest. Avoid generic messages. Hey, nice meeting you. Overeager messages. I had such an amazing time. You're so interesting. When can we meet again? No follow-up at all when you said you'd reach out. The deeper truth, you're already enough. Before we move to the conclusion, I want to pause here and tell you something important. Everything in this chapter, all these techniques and practices, they're not about becoming someone different. They're about removing the barriers that prevent people from seeing who you already are. You don't need to become more likable. You need to stop hiding behind protection mechanisms that were meant to keep you safe but are actually keeping you isolated. When you're warm, you're not performing. You're allowing your natural kindness to show. When you're confident, you're not pretending. You're trusting that you're worthy of taking up space. The goal isn't perfection. It's presence. It's being here, now, as yourself, with all your beautiful imperfections and unique qualities. Let's do a short grounding exercise together before we move forward. The self-compassion breath. Place both hands over your heart. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Breathe naturally for a moment, just noticing the rise and fall of your chest. On your next inhale, think, I am doing my best. On your exhale, think, that is enough. Repeat this 5 times slowly. Feel the warmth of your own hands. Notice any softening in your body. This isn't just a relaxation technique. You're literally practicing self-compassion, which research shows is one of the strongest predictors of social confidence and resilience. Conclusion: socialese as a lifelong skill. We've covered a lot together. Starting conversations. Maintaining them. Understanding your triggers. Becoming someone people feel comfortable around. And now, as we close, I want to talk about what comes next. Socialese isn't a destination. It's not something you achieve once and then you're done. It's a lifelong practice. And that's actually good news, because it means you're always growing. You're always becoming. How to apply these tools every day. The techniques in this journey aren't meant to be performed. They're meant to be integrated into who you are. Here's how to make that happen. The daily social practice. Every single day, even when you don't feel like it, practice one small thing. Not 5 things. Just one. Monday, initiate one conversation. Start a conversation with someone you wouldn't normally talk to. The barista. The person in the elevator. A colleague you usually just nod at. Tuesday, practice active listening. In at least one conversation today, focus entirely on listening. Don't think about your response. Just hear them. Wednesday, express appreciation. Tell someone specifically why you appreciate them. Not "you're great," but "I really appreciate how you always ask how I'm doing. It makes me feel seen." Thursday, practice comfortable silence. In a conversation today, when there's a pause, don't rush to fill it. Let the silence be okay. Friday, share authentically. Share something real with someone. Not oversharing. Just something honest about how you're actually doing or what you're actually thinking. Saturday. Try something socially uncomfortable. Go to that event. Message that person. Have that conversation you've been avoiding. Do one thing that scares you. Sunday, reflect and rest. Think about your social interactions this week. What went well? What did you learn? What do you want to practice more? And then rest. You don't need to be on all the time. This isn't about being perfect every day. It's about incremental growth. Small, consistent actions compound over time. The weekly review practice. Once a week, set aside 15 minutes for reflection. Get a journal or open a notes app. Ask yourself these questions. What social interaction this week made me feel good? Reinforce the positive. What social interaction felt challenging? Learn from difficulty without judgment. What pattern am I noticing in my social anxiety? Build self-awareness. What's one thing I want to practice this coming week? Set intention. Write your answers. Don't just think them. Writing creates clarity and commitment. Continual improvement in social intelligence. Social intelligence is the ability to navigate social situations effectively and understand others deeply. It's one of the most valuable skills you can develop, and like any intelligence, it grows with practice. The 3 pillars of social intelligence. 1. Self-awareness. You understand your own emotions, triggers, patterns, and impact on others. You notice when you're feeling defensive, anxious, or closed off. You recognize your strengths and areas for growth. Practice. After significant interactions, ask yourself, how did I show up in that moment? What was I feeling? How did I handle it? 2. Social awareness. You can read others accurately. You notice body language, tone, energy shifts. You sense when someone is uncomfortable, excited, or holding back. Practice. When in conversation, spend more time observing than planning your next words. Notice facial expressions. Notice when energy shifts. Practice being a student of human behavior. 3. Relationship management. You can navigate conflicts, build connections, influence others positively, and maintain healthy boundaries. Practice. When there's tension, pause before reacting. When there's connection, deepen it with authentic engagement. When boundaries are needed, communicate them clearly and kindly. The growth mindset in social skills. Carol Dweck's research on mindset revolutionized how we understand learning. A fixed mindset says, I'm either good at socializing or I'm not. It's just who I am. A growth mindset says, social skills can be developed. Every interaction is an opportunity to learn. When you adopt a growth mindset about social skills, everything changes. Awkward conversation isn't proof that you're broken. It's data. It's feedback. It's a chance to try something different next time. Reframe your internal dialogue. Fixed, I'm so awkward. I'll never be good at this. Growth, that felt awkward, and that's okay. What can I learn from this? Fixed, I'm just not a people person. Growth, social connection doesn't come naturally to me yet, but I'm practicing. Fixed, everyone else finds this easy. Growth, everyone has their own struggles. I'm focusing on my own journey. This shift in how you talk to yourself is transformative. You're not being delusional or positive thinking your way through real challenges. You're being accurate. You can grow. Neural pathways can change. Social skills can be developed. Becoming naturally confident in all environments. Let's talk about the ultimate goal, feeling naturally confident wherever you are. Not because you've memorized the right things to say, but because you've built an internal foundation that doesn't shake easily. Confidence isn't absence of fear. First, let's redefine confidence. Confidence isn't the absence of nervousness or doubt. It's acting in alignment with your values despite those feelings. You can feel nervous and still be confident. You can feel uncertain and still take action. Confidence is about trusting yourself to handle whatever comes, not about knowing exactly what will happen. The confidence equation. Confidence equals self-trust plus experience plus self-compassion. Self-trust. I believe I can figure this out. Experience, I've done hard things before. Self-compassion, if I struggle, I'll be kind to myself. When you have all 3, you become resilient in any environment. Environment-specific confidence building. Different environments challenge us differently. Here's how to build confidence in each. Confidence at work. Speak up in meetings at least once, even if it's just to agree or ask a clarifying question. Take credit for your work without diminishing it. I'm proud of how this turned out. Ask for what you need: time, resources, clarification. Practice, I have a different perspective on this, instead of maybe I'm wrong but. Confidence in social gatherings. Arrive early when possible, smaller groups are less overwhelming. Set a small goal: I'll have one meaningful conversation instead of I'll be the life of the party. Give yourself permission to leave when you're done. Remember, you're not performing. You're just showing up as yourself. Confidence in new environments. Acknowledge the discomfort. This is new. Of course, I feel uncertain. Focus on curiosity. What can I learn here, instead of how do I perform here? Ask questions. New environments are the perfect place to be curious. Remember, everyone else was new once too. Confidence in intimate relationships. Express needs directly. I need some reassurance right now, instead of hoping they'll guess. Accept that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Disagree with respect. I see it differently without needing to convince. Trust that the right people will love you as you are. The mastery mindset, from conscious to unconscious competence. There's a learning model called the 4 stages of competence. Stage 1, unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. You might not even realize you have social anxiety or that there are skills to learn. Stage 2, conscious incompetence. You're aware of the skills you lack. This stage is uncomfortable. You see the gap between where you are and where you want to be. This is where many people give up. Stage 3, conscious competence. You can do the skills, but it requires effort. You're using the interest loop, practicing active listening, managing your breath. It works, but it's effortful. Stage 4, unconscious competence. The skills become natural. You don't think about the techniques. You just do them. This is mastery. Right now, you might be in stage 2 or 3. That's perfect. That's exactly where growth happens. Trust that with practice, you'll move into stage 4. The techniques will become who you are, not what you do. The long view, your social journey. Let me paint a picture for you. A year from now, if you practice what we've covered, here's what might be different. You walk into a room and you don't immediately scan for threats or exits. You scan for interesting people to meet. When someone asks how you are, you answer honestly without over-explaining. When there's a pause in conversation, you don't panic. You breathe. You smile. You let the moment be. When you meet someone new, you're curious about them, not worried about their judgment of you. When you're in a group, you contribute naturally, without rehearsing in your head first. When you leave an interaction, you feel good, regardless of whether it was perfect. You have deeper friendships because you've learned to show up authentically. You feel less exhausted by socializing because you're not performing anymore. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when you practice consistently with self-compassion. The final practice, the evening gratitude breath. I want to leave you with one final practice. Every night before you sleep, do this. The evening gratitude breath. Lie comfortably in bed. Place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. Breathe naturally and think of one social interaction from your day. It doesn't have to be major. Just one moment. On your inhale, recall that moment. On your exhale, think, I showed up. That's enough. Repeat with 3 different moments. Let yourself feel grateful for your efforts, not just your successes. Fall asleep knowing you're growing. This practice does something profound. It trains your brain to focus on what went well instead of ruminating on what went wrong. Over time, this literally rewires your neural pathways toward positivity and confidence. Your permission slip. As we close, I want to give you permission for something. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to have awkward moments. Permission to mess up, to say the wrong thing, to miss social cues, to feel anxious, to need breaks from people. You're not broken. You're human. And being human means you're beautifully, messy, imperfectly perfect. The goal of this entire journey wasn't to turn you into a social performance machine. It was to give you tools to feel more comfortable in your own skin, to connect more deeply with others, and to trust that you're enough exactly as you are. Socialese is not about never feeling nervous. It's about feeling nervous and showing up anyway. It's about being willing to be seen, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about choosing connection over protection. And you've already started. By reading this, by practicing, by trying, by showing up, you've already started becoming the person you want to be. The lifelong practice. Social connection is a lifelong practice. You'll have moments of ease and moments of struggle. Seasons where you feel socially vibrant and seasons where you need to retreat and recharge. All of this is normal. All of this is part of being human. What matters is that you keep showing up. You keep practicing. You keep choosing connection, even when it's scary. You keep being kind to yourself when it's hard. And gradually, over time, you'll notice something beautiful. Social situations won't feel like threats. They'll feel like opportunities. Opportunities to learn, to connect, to grow, to be yourself. You'll become someone people feel comfortable around because you're comfortable with yourself. You'll become someone who makes others feel seen because you've learned to see yourself with compassion. You'll become someone who can hold space for both joy and difficulty, both confidence and vulnerability, both connection and solitude. You'll become, simply and powerfully, yourself. Take one last deep breath with me. Inhale deeply for 4 counts, hold gently for 2, exhale slowly for 6, and rest. You've got everything you need. Not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to grow. Go forward with warmth. Go forward with confidence. Go forward with the knowledge that you are exactly who you need to be. Thank you for taking this journey. Now go live it. The world needs your presence. Your authentic, imperfect, beautiful presence. Be well. Be kind to yourself. And know that you're not alone in this. You've got this.